good, everybody?
What's going on? Devon Digital in the building.
Yes, sir. I'm Galen's Gadgets. This is the Trust the Tech podcast, and we got definitely won't be this guy's first time. Actually, one of our good friends in the tech community. We got Petar from Direct Tech here. What's up, Petar?
Nothing much, man. Just sitting in Twitter jail for another 3 days.
Yeah, that's fun. So he was not able to retweet this on his home feed or anything like that. So hopefully we still got a lot of viewers and everything. Because a lot of people should probably hear this experience. I know it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Just listening to you rant about your issues with iOS and maybe even Google or whatever else is going on.
I'll try
with
not
your
to rant.
personal
I'll
use.
try to keep it structured.
Oh no, let it out. Let it out, bro. The better the entertaining, let it out. Let it out. What else to say? Let it go, let it go, let it go.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I've known Petar for it's
2
been
years?
a minute, like close to 2 years now, right? When did you start YouTube?
This time, very early 2021.
Okay, I got you. Yep, I started in like July of 2020. When did you start, Delvon?
Shoot, man. I want to say
Or start making tech content because I know you had a channel before in which you like highlighted your photography and stuff. When did you start making tech content?
it probably had to be like, I would say the summer of COVID. Literally the summer of COVID, because I needed an outlet because I was going through some stuff.
That's exactly when I started. That was 2020. So yeah, we all started pretty much like within like 5 months of each other, I'd say. And we've all pretty much like connected like when we first got started, which I think is like really unique and cool. And we all been really cool since. And like I said before, this definitely will not be Petar's last time on the podcast. I could definitely like see us hitting him up last minute if someone cancels or something like that, just because he always has a lot to talk about. And one of my favorite people to talk to, even if we have like different views on tech or anything. We're always still able to have good conversation and respect each other. That's why we get along so well. We're basically going to be talking about Petar's voyage over the past few months. He basically went from Pixel to iPhone and back to Pixel, right?
In 10 days.
In 10 days. That's even better. That makes it even more fun. It's a really unique experience. So tell us about that. What made you pick up the Pixel first, right?
Okay, so I've always liked the Pixel since I got the 3A in 2018. Long before I did Tech YouTube, I had a 10S Max. And I picked up the little 3A just out of curiosity, and it blew my mind. This was like, what, Android 9, 10?
Yeah,
the typing experience was great, and then I was taking pictures on the 3A, and I was like, this thing smokes my iPhone, like, and I was really butthurt about it. And then also this was back in the day when Apple was still using Intel modems, and I was dual carrying the 3A for work, so I got to use it quite extensively. And the more I used it, I was like, damn, this is good software. Like, I quite like this. Now, at the time, I was very bitter with Android because the year before, 2017, I just had enough of Samsung shit. And I was like, screw Android. I'm going over to Apple. I need something that works. This is when they had, what did they call it? Like One Touch Wiz UI or whatever it was called. Pre-One UI.
Yeah, TouchWiz, right?
It was just so really unreliable. My S8 was tragic. So I went to iPhone and it was great. Picked up the 3A, like I said, and I was like, wish I'd kind of tried this before I jumped over to the iPhone. This is great.
So how much did you pick that up for at the time? The 3A?
The 3A? 349, something like that.
Okay, got you.
Fast forward a few months, and I got to the point where I was like, do you know what? I'm going to flip it. The 10S Max is going to become a work phone, 8 till 5, and the 3A is going to become my personal phone. Like, I swapped out a £1,000 phone for a £350 Pixel purely because of the software and the camera.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I still have pictures on Google Photos that I refer to and I show people, and I'm like, what phone do you think took this? And they're like, oh, I don't know, S21 Ultra. And I'm like, no, bro, it was a Pixel 3A. And that was single lens, computational photography. It just blew my mind, you know?
So would you say the software experience and camera was what really like won you over with the Pixel 3A?
Yeah, man. Honestly, it punched so much higher. you know, and I'm not one of those people. I don't mobile game. I wasn't doing YouTube, so I didn't really care about it. All I cared about was the stills and the functionality of the software. And not just when it comes to software, but in my general life, I like to have things that are functional. If my tech can complement that, that's great.
I got you. So how far in the Google ecosystem did you get, like when you first got the 3.8, or is that something that you got like later on with later devices?
I tried out the Gen 2 Pixel Buds, and they were like the worst buds experience I ever had in my life. They were so tragic. And at the time, I was like, "Oh my god, this is why I'm never leaving Apple. Like this stuff just doesn't work. Like I can't trust Google beyond the handset, you know." And then this was at the time when like the Pixel 3 and 3 XL were having like non-stop issues, a lot like we had with the 6 generation. They were, you know, I knew people having like up to 6 replacements. From Android Police, Zach Wiki Dennis, he had 6 Pixel 3s, 6, you know.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it was just nuts. Like the whole thing was just nuts. Time went on. Then I got the 4 XL. I was like, oh man, I need to try a flagship Pixel that had Soli, all this stuff. And the 4 XL came within inches of tearing me away from Apple, within inches. The only real letdown was the battery life. It was shambolic. Like I was barely scraping 4 hours. But other than that, the display, Soli, Squeeze for Assistant, the camera, it just massacred the iPhone that generation. The voice dictation too. And this was pre-Tensor.
Yeah.
This was when they included a separate neural engine inside it, you know. At one point, I was daily driving the 4 XL. But again, I just ended up back on the iPhone because ecosystem, Apple Watch, iMessage, stuff like that. And just being a bit of a fanboy as well, if we're really honest. I was fanboying Apple hard at the time. So I went back to that. But the 4 XL left a really lasting impression on me. And then call screening became a thing. And some of the things, I think that was like the first year it became available in America. And I was just so impressed by it, man. Honestly, each year, Pixel built a better impression for me. Fast forward again another year, I carried the 4 XL for a full year. Pixel 5 generation drops. I dual carried the 4a 5G from launch day till the day the Pixel 6 series dropped. It was just old reliable, man. What Google did with that 765 processor and the experience, the battery was fantastic. Again, it was a work phone. I flirted with it back and forth as a personal phone, but I could never quite stick with it. Dumb as it sounds, I had like a bit of an anxiety about leaving Apple. I was like, nah, man, I'm too invested in this. You know, Apple till I die, all this. I just refused to leave. And then the Pixel 6 series dropped, and I got really angry with Google. I remember everybody will remember like how much I just hated on Google, how much like smoke I was fishing at them.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
I remember that.
They really took a fantastic experience and took a hot shit on it. Like, but one thing I did make clear at the time, but everybody overlooked, was the experience currently is shit. They're not Apple. They don't have that experience and finish and just that panache, just something about them like Apple does to pull it off first time making their own silicon. I said 2 things. I said they'd come good on the 2nd generation, and I said I can see the intent with Tensor, where they're looking, what the long game is, and I can appreciate it, and I think it'll come good in time. Lo and behold, it's come good, and now I daily drive a Pixel 7 Pro.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so proof's in the pudding. I'm living up to my word. If it's better, I'll use it. I'll buy it. I'll put my money where my mouth is. You know, as time's gone on and Google's developed their software, their features, their photography, you know, and I've incorporated things like using mirrorless cameras into my setup, the iPhone's just become a little bit less relevant and become more of a luxury. Like, yes, it's good for a second angle. Yes, I can airdrop the stuff over. But I got to a point where the phone didn't become the priority to accommodate the channel. The phone started to be more important to my personal needs. Right. And the iPhone isn't fulfilling that as well as the Pixel is. You know, I'm at a point where the phone, my life doesn't need to orientate the channel. I can afford to take that piece of tech, the phone, out of the equation and have it suit my life better. And whilst I can appreciate many, many things about the iPhone, like anytime I've had a problem, like I had a dud iPhone 12 Pro. I had a bad wireless charging coil. Straight to the Apple store, changed, no problem. I had problems with my MacBook, on my AirPods, on the phone, to the store. All of that is fantastic, including the optimizations and the battery life. But I'm constantly finding myself sat there thinking like, I want more. And I couldn't tell you what more is, but I just have a feeling of I want more. And then I pick up a Pixel and I want nothing.
So you switched from an iPhone to the Pixel 7 Pro. You had the iPhone 14. How long did you end up having that, or in your case, dealing with it? Because I know it wasn't the best experience for you.
Got the 14 Pro Max at launch, and straight away out the box, I was irritated because 90% of the experience was far too close to my experience with the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, because I had both. You have to forgive me. I've got a bit of a cold at the minute, so I'm really bunged up.
Oh, no, you're good, bro.
And it was just too similar for my liking. Like, okay, yes, you had the dynamic island, the brighter screen, which was a nice quality of life improvement. The low light photography was significantly better. But then I looked at it as, how often do I genuinely use low light photography? How often, you know what I mean? It's not an everyday useful feature for my life. Like, I could sit on Twitter all day and be like, okay, but yeah, it's improved the low light photography. But ask yourself, how much does it matter to you? How often are you using it? Compared to the features that I value and I use daily on the Pixel 7 Pro. Like, at the minute, because I can't figure out how to get my CV off this website, I have recruiters calling me 24/7. Now, because they're numbers that I don't recognize, I can't distinguish if it's someone from my work or a recruiter. What do? I send them to call screening. Now I know if I want to waste my time or not.
Right.
You know, the photos on the 7 Pro compared to the 14 Pro Max are significantly better. And one thing that's been a trend since the 12, 13 and through to the 14 series, the HDR on the iPhone has got worse, but the price has gone up. Right now, if you're in the UK, the starting price for a Pro Max is £1,250. It gets worse. If you're in mainland Europe, like France, Germany, Belgium, Holland, it's €1,400 starting.
That's crazy.
That's insane. So outside of America, we're subsidizing Apple's pricing back in the US, but the performance isn't living up to the new price tag. They're talking about this A16 having all these benchmarks, and the benchmarks are impressive, but the software, which is supposed to be improving with new features, the actual day-to-day performance, the stability, the reliability it's going down. It's going downhill.
Yeah. Especially, what kind of issues were you experiencing with iOS 16 that like really turned you off of it?
One of the things was just really irregular heating during charging. I was getting like way more than average heating. And
that can be scary for a phone.
I mean, especially when it's steel, which doesn't dissipate heat very well. Which means the phone was constantly dimming the display. I mean, whilst I was in the Apple ecosystem, I was heavily reliant on iMessage. I was having constant issues with iMessage. Because the phone was getting hot, the display was dimming and stuff like that. The dynamic island itself, the UI would become very unresponsive. And iOS 16 itself actually was just generally quite unreliable, quite unresponsive.
Right.
And I was having this really annoying bug, man. Like, I'll be talking to, say, someone like Max from Mura Tech Talk or Mike Danskin from Tech 702, Mike Dizzle. And, like, I'll just be typing. I look up, and it scrolled up, like, 4 days worth of conversation. And it sounds like a minor thing, and I guess it is. But when it's doing it constantly, it just gets to the point where you're like, for fuck's sake, like, I'm going to throw this piece of shit out the window in a minute. Like, that's how you start to feel.
Right. Yeah, it adds up for sure.
Things like the camera app, you open it and the screen's just black, and then I have to force close it and then reopen it. I was even having where like messages would just bug out, the native messages app, force close it, reopen it, and it's still bugging, and it's bugging for like 10-15 minutes.
Right. Yeah, that's insane.
And stuff like that. And then one of the things that really got on my tits was that they keep dropping features like the satellite connectivity, using the iPhone to take payment and stuff like that, but they're US only.
Okay.
And it's like, but I'm paying all this money. I want access to these features.
Right, yeah.
See, I was aware that Apple actually gave everybody the same experience across the board. So that's not true for them.
So I know
you get
for
the
a
same
fact the
hardware.
SIM card thing is different by region. Did your
I do know
variant
that.
get the SIM card, Petar?
Yeah,
Everybody
we
did,
still,
but us.
Oh,
we
that's
still get the
wild.
SIM tray. Yeah. But I think my biggest pain point with the iPhone currently is two things. The HDR has got really bad. When
That's
I mean,
significant. Yeah.
put it this way, in 5 years, I've never gone back a generation. I went for the 10 days, I went back to the iPhone. I was like, screw this, I'm getting a 13 Pro Max.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, no, I'm not having it. And the 13
That's
Pro
actually
Max,
a very popular take right now among
loads
just
of
like
people are
creators like us.
returning them. Loads
Yeah.
of people, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember when me and you were talking and you were telling me how you had before, let's just fast forward before the Pixel was even announced. You were debating whether to go to iPhone 14 Pro Max this year or going with the Pixel Pro. You caved in and you got the iPhone. I do remember that. You remember that, right?
Yeah, and I said I regret it.
Then you regret it. And then you was like, you know what? Fuck this. Excuse my French, everybody, but I'm going back to the Pixel. I'm going to the Pixel. So you bought the Pixel. You completely fell in love with the Pixel. You were just so happy. You were texting me about everything. We were using RCS and everything like that. No problem. RCS gotten so much better since you came back now because now we can reply to each other messages and stuff like that and the whole everything. But anyways, you came back and then you was like, oh man, I got to go back. And what was the reason? Tell everybody the reason why you went back. Tell everybody.
It's a number of reasons. I'll start with the most obvious one off the top of my head. I had a brand new Apple Watch Ultra that was just staring at me every day, just looking at me with just absolute disgust and disdain. Like, how dare you leave me here? That was just hurting my soul. The next one was just a lot of people on iMessage. It was I hate using WhatsApp, but I don't have an option because if you're not on iMessage or on WhatsApp, there's no in between here. Right, and you definitely won't catch me on Facebook Messenger. So I was like, oh shit. I was like, okay, they won't use anything other than WhatsApp or iMessage. I'll have to go back to iMessage. Then the way I've set myself up and my family and my girlfriend's family on some Apple services, by me leaving, I kind of broke the continuity of the features. As well as like air tags. We all have each other on Find My in case we can't find someone, can't get hold of them, in case someone loses something and stuff like that. Especially with like what I do for work, what my partner does for work. You know, we can't always pick up the phone. It relieves the anxiety of being able to check where someone is because then you can piece together where they are.
Yeah, right.
What's going on. So just all those kind of things. And I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to have to go back to the iPhone. Went back to the iPhone. My friend Michael from Michael's Tech Talk hooked me up. Fucking awesome deal on a 13 Pro Max. So I jumped on it. But within 10 days, and I think this kind of speaks volumes, within 10 days, I knew I made a mistake. I was like, nah.
He told me that too.
This ain't it. I was literally sitting there with the iPhone like, this ain't it, chief. This ain't it. Like, I'm so bored of the fact that since 2013, iOS 7, it's looked the same. The icons haven't changed. I can't do so many basic things. And it's like, I get a new OS every year, new, right? And they add some meaningful features like edit iMessage or portrait mode on FaceTime and all of the noise isolation and stuff like that, which is great. It's a very functional day-to-day feature. But I don't use them that often, apart from edit iMessage. I do like that. That's great. I wish they'd bring that to RCS, and hopefully they will. The core OS itself, in the 5 years I was on the iPhone, I think the biggest changes were like dark mode, flipping, edit iMessage, noise cancellation on FaceTime, live text, and then like that thing where you can pull people's picture apart. Like it's 6, 7 things tops that changed in the core OS. You know, it's over 5 years. It's not really that much.
Right.
Like,
so
I never felt like I got a...
Since we're talking about like features on smartphones, I want to hit this comment that Mario put in here. He asked us, what do we think about region-specific stuff with the Pixel? We could actually go into iOS as well for some things, but can it really still be one of the best phones of 2022 if only some people can experience it? And then he went into examples. Most of this is call assistant related. So direct my call, hold for me, call screening, voice message, and all that stuff. What do we think about that?
I mean, I'm in the UK. I'm in a region where I don't have all of those features, but I do have call screening. Now, I don't have a hold for me, which I wish I did. It's a incredibly useful feature that I could get a lot of use out of. But I think, look at it this way. You can definitely still say it's the best phone this year because you are getting the bulk of the core experience. You're getting the voice dictation. You're getting the faster image processing. The things that Mario's mentioning are kind of like the icing on the cake. You know,
I agree.
There are additional little bonuses that you get along the way that you pick up, and time's proven that eventually those features will roll out to other regions, whether it's for legal reasons or whatever. I don't know. Then look at it this way, because
mostly is legal right now.
Look at it this way though. People want to argue that the S22 Ultra is the phone of the year. Now, I would argue this: how can you argue that that is the phone of the year when the actual core experience is greatly different in two different regions?
Yeah, that is 100% true. That is 100% true. If you get a Pixel, it's going to be the same Pixel pretty much across the board. And I agree with that.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's
you're getting,
really
you don't even get the same image processing with an Exynos and a Snapdragon. You don't get the same quality 4K video, which is actually something that's gone under talked about during this year. If you look at the video processing on a Exynos S22 Ultra and the video processing on a Snapdragon S22 Ultra, it is not one and the same. And the Exynos to this day ain't it, Chief?
Yeah.
Nope.
No. So I want to say that, you know, our story of moving on to Pixel was similar. You were coming from an iPhone. I was coming from Samsung. I thought that I would never, ever leave Samsung.
Yeah,
I adapted. I started buying into the ecosystem just like you, tablets, computers, and anything that they have. You know, I even went as far as buying appliances because obviously Samsung's ecosystem stretches past electronics and you can get appliances. So I started buying different things so it can work together and just got deep in there. And that Pixel 6 is what changed me. It made me what I am today. So right now, my whole entire house and everything is like really automated with Google. And I do notice that you are currently in the process of doing that now. So tell us about that experience.
So I had a couple of the Gen 2 Nest Minis that I just kind of accumulated over the years for free. I got free one from Spotify and stuff like that. I had like 3-4. And I was always really impressed by the fact that if I asked it a question, it actually gave me a spoken answer. Like it gave me an intelligent answer. It actually acted like an intelligent assistant. Whereas like if I ask my HomePod, it's either I don't understand, I can't connect at this time, or I've sent a Google search to your phone. Bitch, if I wanted to Google search it, I'd fucking do it myself. I don't need to ask fucking Siri for a Google search. I'll do it my fucking self.
Facts, though.
So the Google Assistant actually works. It understands, right? And then I got my first Nest Hub display, the second gen, the smaller one, right?
Yeah, right.
And that thing was just fire, man. Having the little display, being able to see your reminders and the interactions and stuff like that. Now I've got them all over the house. And one of the other things that I really like is that Google Home is so much more open to so many more third-party brands. Like, for example, a well-known brand is Govee. I've got a lot of Govee LEDs. And I can go on Amazon and I can find 101 brands that are quite affordable for me to change all of the light bulbs around the house, and they will work with Google. And it's great. It's just so much more affordable to set up a smart home. You know, and even when I was on the iPhone, I still used Google Assistant. I still used Google Home with an iPhone because HomeKit is just so restrictive and so expensive.
So do you think that restriction is because of how late Apple got into the smart home game, or because of security related things?
They say it's security related, right?
Okay.
And I'm sure a degree of it is. But with the tweets we've seen from Misk, for those of you who've seen those, I've discussed them on my Twitter before I was in Twitter jail. Somebody tweet Elon, told him to free me, free the guys. It's bullshit. At this point, I'm like, you're sucking up my data anyway, so just open it up. Let's just open it up and get it working.
Use it, right? Use the data.
Look, the iOS HomeKit app, the Home app, is actually better than Google's. It's a much more polished app in general, like you expect a native Apple app to be. I like the fact that I can access any camera feed and view it real time in the app. But I don't understand why, like, I have like Eufy 2K cameras that have all of these great features, but I can't access them because Apple cuts all of that off. So I find Google Home is just easier to work with, pure and simple. It's more affordable.
I'm glad that you mentioned that about the preview. Right now, you can sign up to if this thing will focus. Google's focus now. Hold on, my face is in there. Maybe it'll focus now. There it is.
There we go.
Come on, get it there. All right. Anyways, you can. It's up here in the Google Home app. Anyways, there it is. Okay, you can actually get that preview now inside the Google. It's a beta app coming right now. You can sign up for it to be one of the first people. So you'll just go into your Google Home app and go to the settings at the very top, and then just sign up for the preview. If they let you in, then you'll be able to preview all of your devices and stuff like that that you get connected and stuff like that in your cameras. Because I have 2 cameras, so it's pretty cool. But for the most part, I got to click on the camera to preview it. But I did notice that there's a new feature where it actually previews on the lock screen now up in here in this corner.
That's great. That's good.
And it's
things
so
like that
crazy.
Are what I like.
Yeah. I made a post about it. So Google is really like you got the thing about Google is you got to give them that time that Apple had to grow, as well as Samsung.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We already know they matured as companies. They matured with their devices and everything. Samsung, last thing they needed to tackle was the software. That's it. Samsung had all the hardware. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're still tackling it. That's what I'm saying. That's what their ideal focus needs to be on right now is the software to catch up with Apple and Samsung and Google when it comes to software. And Google needs to find a better way to connect everything seamlessly together because they still haven't got this freaking watch to connect with my Pixel. If I use this Pixel watch on any other Android phone, it's going to be the same exact features, same exact thing. I don't get a better experience using it on my Pixel. And I kind of want that. So I just feel like, with my Galaxy Watch, I have the ultimate experience using with my Galaxy phones. Then I pair it to my Pixel, I lose features. Don't get me wrong. I like that, but I hate it. I hate to lose the features, but I like that they keep some of the stuff because that's how it keeps you on Samsung. You're like, man, if I want this feature, I got to stay. Same way DirectTech had issues of leaving Apple. It was these features. It was the connection of everything that kept him going back. And now, he made it to a point in his life. He was like, you know what? F this. I like what I like, and I'm just going to go use it no matter what. And I've always been that way. And he's now getting to that point. And that's what I try to explain to a lot of people when you're using devices. If you really enjoy something else, nobody's saying that you can't use it. Nobody's stopping you from using it. Like people get so tied up into this. I gotta have this because this person and this person and this person. I literally don't care.
Yeah,
and I enjoy what I enjoy.
People form their opinions based on someone else's opinion a lot.
A lot
these days.
A lot. And it's just not. I just feel like, we got one life to live, bro. Why aren't you really just sitting here enjoying it? That's why a lot of conversations come up where I'd be like, well, MacBooks are powerful. People will tell me how great MacBooks are, right? But MacBooks cannot use a pen or a touchscreen for me to do art and digital photography. So I don't care for them. I care for tablets or laptops that can do that. And that works better for me versus what works better for somebody else. What is going off?
I mean, one thing I will say on the topic of software, Apple's rate of development with software and adding features is just too slow for me.
That's fair.
It's just too slow. When I'm sitting with the iPhone on the Apple's aisle of life, and I'm looking over the fence and seeing what Samsung's cooking up and what Google are cooking up, and it's just like, well, I want that. Why can't I have that? The grass is greener over there, so why don't you throw some green paint on this grass over here, and let's balance up the green? But they're not. They're not. That's why for me, it's not a hardware thing with the iPhone. Their hardware is immaculate. It's perfect. They've got to a point where their hardware is of such a high quality and standard. Their general build quality, they don't need to stress about it. I get the feeling like they're over focused on hardware and not focused enough on software. As somebody who's been, bucking with Apple for a while, I don't feel like they're the same Apple that they were a few years ago. I feel like they've got very lazy and there's a lot of hubris, a lot of ego. And I feel like it's probably time for somebody else to take over at Apple, because the last 10 years for them have been and should have been hardware oriented, improving their hardware and their supply chain. And Tim Cook was the man for this. But Tim Cook is not a software person. The game is software now. You know, all of them have got hardware. All of them have got hardware, which is so good. It's hard to really distinguish. I mean, you're looking at, do they have optical zoom? You know, what's their OLED display like and stuff like that. But all of the OLEDs are good now on the flagships and even some of the mid-ranges. I'm looking for you to buy my affection with the software, buy my money, buy my attention. You know, and they're not doing that.
If you have to say who has the better software right now currently to you, and it's probably obvious answer right now. Probably obvious answer, right now.
So they fucked up my Apple Watch with watchOS 9. Like everything was moving at like 1 hertz. I could literally watch it frame by frame moving. My Mac is just like a bakery, basically. I could crack eggs on it, you know. That Final Cut is just excruciating to work with. I mean, I've got 16 gigabytes of RAM and I'm constantly rendering, like barely. I've just constantly got the rainbow wheel. The iPhone, it's just all of it. It's just the whole thing they've got going at the minute just bugs me, and I'm not putting up with it.
It's kind of crazy that every OS, this happened with every OS at the same time with Apple, like every single, like 2022, basically. Like this has never happened before, where it's like iOS, Mac OS, iPad OS, and Watch OS are all having significant issues. It's kind of crazy.
Off their staff.
That is true.
I mean, we've all seen in the news that they're very standoffish with their staff. And if you refer yourself to the interview Craig Federighi gave with the Wall Street Journal a few weeks ago, again, there was a lot of hubris, a lot of ego. And whilst I do understand the argument for why they want their staff to come back to the office, Apple's cultivated this problem for themselves. They've portrayed themselves as a very woke social justice kind of company, and they've cultivated that culture amongst their staff. Well, now you've got these employees who buy into that culture, but now you want to act like an employer and tell them like you will do this. Well, guess what? No, they won't, because they'll just go. Or they will silently quit and bugger your software, which is clearly the case, because these people are clearly not bothered to do their job. And what are you going to do? So they need to do something with that. I mean, you know, their suppliers in China are having riots. At the minute, there's riots going on in the iPhone factories in China. Now, I know Apple are in the process of moving their factories to India and Vietnam, but Apple's got more than one problem at the minute, man. They've got problems just all over the place, you know?
I think like you know, from last year, Google had the biggest hit when it came to software, and at the time, I think Samsung was like probably the most stable at the time, even though they had their own issues. And then like this year, Apple is just really bombing. I have been seeing a lot of people, you know, including yourself, talking about how bad the software is, and then you also have those other people who are saying that it's not, it's fine, and I believe both sides, because you know, device per person. The experience is different. Like I had the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro last year. People had overheating issues, glitches, all kinds of different things. I got really lucky out the gate getting a good unit, didn't have any issues or whatever. Maybe because my unit came a little bit late from everybody else's. I don't know if it was like the first batch or whatever is going on, but it's just that so many people had issues and I didn't have issues. Pixel 7 comes out. It's a bigger broad of people who are not having issues compared to last year. Like a smaller portion.
I mean,
and piggybacking off what you said earlier is that you said that you've known people who you know, RMA their Pixels like 3 or 4 times, right? And this is the crazy thing about that. They had to really love that device that much to keep on exchanging it back and forth until they got a unit that they can work with. That tells you about the experience that they know that they can have. And they want to have it, but they kept changing it back and forth, because at some point I would be like, fuck that, I'm going to just get something else. I mean, I did exchanged my AirPods Max 3 times. Well, 2 times before I got the third pair that was good because I love those things. Everybody else is like, mine's working. Well, hopefully I get a working one. So that speaks a lot about the Pixel experience that people want to have if you're willing to do that, because a lot of people are not.
I mean, one of the things is that people need to understand these are mass-produced electronics.
Yep.
Like when I say mass-produced, you're talking hundreds of millions of iPhones made per year.
These things are getting pushed out like more than like TVs and any other type of consumer technology for sure.
So imagine, let's say there's 100 million motherboards made for the 14 series, right? And let's say you have a 3% failure rate. That's still 3 million motherboards.
Right,
That's a lot of motherboards,
right.
which can seem like a lot. Now, we'll never know the percentage figure of the failures as a total. But so long as it's not as excessive as the problems were last year with the fingerprint sensors and the modems, that's fine. Like if I have the RMA, this 7 Pro for any reason, that's fine. Shit happens. That's just part and parcel of it. These are mass-produced products made in vast quantities. And they use various suppliers. One supplier might be better than the other. The machinery calibration, the tooling for it could have gone wrong for a couple of phones before someone realized. There's just so many things at play. Just don't be hasty to be like, this is shit. Get a second unit, go to a store, get it replaced, go from there. Don't just jump the gun and be like, it's fucking shit.
Absolutely. I totally agree. A lot of people are quick to jump on tech and knowing that tech has its flaws. I mean, it can happen. You can have somebody fall asleep at the computer, put in the wrong code in. You can have somebody forget a piece on the little motherboard. I mean, they're human beings. So
this is the thing. So how you were saying from device to device, people's experience varies. When they load the software into the device, it can corrupt on a kernel level, and it could happen to one and not the other.
Yep.
So you could just have software which is flawed on a kernel level. If it's flawed on a kernel level, you have to replace the whole motherboard, the logic board.
Yep.
Or just basically replace which is basically the whole device because the way they sold it.
Yeah.
So again, if it's just on a kernel level, just get it replaced. They will replace it. And one thing I recommend to anyone who's watching this, if you're in a country where you have Amazon, buy your tech on Amazon. Okay? Nobody will give you custom. It's the easiest returns, the easiest warranties. They don't ask questions. They don't care. They make so much money and they pay no tax. So you better believe Jeff Bezos is going to run you that repair real quick. And he ain't asking questions. He just wants to keep you coming back. I mean, I use Amazon for like flipping my dog's pills and everything. The only thing I don't buy from Amazon is basically my groceries at this point.
Bro, I buy everything comes off Amazon, bro. Everything with me.
Why didn't I get rid of it? Because it's not the 14 Pro Max. That's the problem. It's Apple. Apple's the problem.
So you think it's like a truly iOS 16 issue?
I'm just I was on iOS for 5 years. And it just didn't change enough for my liking. And what I don't like is the fact that the software is, while I understand their ethos and mantra of simplicity and keeping it easy to understand and use, there's also a point where I think they're walking a fine line, right? It gets to a point where their software is so basic, it's actually insulting. Like, how much of an idiot do you take me for? Like, for example, the Pixel is the iOS equivalent. Their take of Android is incredibly simplistic. But if I want to dig further and I want more features, they are there. And it's the same thing with One UI. Now, I've actually got lost in One UI before. Like, there were so many features. I started doing stuff. And I was like, oh, shit, I don't know how I've done this. So I have to get onto, like, Derek, who's a Samsung expert, be like, bro, like, here's a screenshot. Can you tell me what the fuck I've done and how the fuck I get out of this?
Trust me, I've done the same thing. Yep.
I started opening, like, multi-windows on the S21 Ultra, and I was like, bruh, like, how do I get out of this? How did I even do this? So I just want a little bit more from the software. Be competitive on the software features, which is why I've said to people, for me, in the future, going forward, whether I move back to Apple or not, it's not about the iPhone event. It's about DubDub.
Yep.
That's where I'm hedging my bets. What I see at DubDub. And I think what I'm looking for this coming WWDC in 2023 is I wanted them to show me what direction they intend to take things with. You know, because with I/O and the Samsung software events, they give you a gist of where they're headed, what's down the line. So I need to see something from them in the next year or two. Otherwise, I'm just going to be taking an extended break.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree. We also had a conversation about the iPad, and you were thinking about going with a Galaxy tablet. Do you still feel that way right now?
Yeah, man. I mean, so I got a Galaxy Tab S6 Lite from work.
Yeah.
And I'm really
device.
digging Android 12L, man. I really dig it. It's a good tablet. You know, I went up to the stores and I checked out the Samsung tablets. I've got an M1 12.9-inch iPad at the minute. It is a beast. Fantastic display, quality speakers. But again, for the price, the software is just a little too simplistic for my liking. I feel like if I actually got, like, say, I don't know, an S8 Plus or an Ultra Tab, because just even the fact they come with the pen and the thing that pen can do, I would probably do more things for the channel, especially with like the Samsung Notes app. You know, I just like, it's hard to explain, but I just using Android 12L, I like it. I like what it's offering. So I just want to give it a go. I haven't tried it. If I do return the iPad, it's not because there's anything wrong with it. Just me as a individual, as a tech reviewer, I'm curious and I just want to find out, you know, because if that little S6 Lite can give me such a decent experience, well, what can the flagship do?
Yeah.
You know, and so I can hook up my Pixel Buds to it, no problem. All of the hardware is so interconnectable with Android. It's nice.
Yeah. So I got one question. All right. So I've been using pretty much Android and iOS since like the first iPhone, the first Android phone, and Windows and all that. I've been in this tech game for a long time, but I haven't really been a tech guy, which I really was in general. And I find that in my experience that Android phones are very great standalone phones. We're talking about a phone without buds, a watch, tablet, or any other connecting device.
I'm glad you touched on it.
And I always found the iPhone very bland without everything else. It's just it feels like you buy the iPhone, you have no choice to get everything else. Do you feel that way right now? With
yeah. So if you want to maximize the experience on an iPhone, you're not doing that with the iPhone alone. You need the AirPods and the watch on a minimum. That's the minimum you want. That little trifecta. Yeah. If you want to go further, you're going to need an iPad. You're going to need a MacBook. Now you're like what, $4 or $5 grand out of pocket?
Yeah.
Whereas so I look at it this way: the iPhone is a weak point. The ecosystem is a strong point. The Pixel is the strong point. The ecosystem is the weak point. It's a complete reversal. However, saying that, I have a MacBook and I can install RTS messages on it. I've installed WhatsApp on it. I can fit the Pixel into the Apple ecosystem very comfortably. If I want to use it for photos, for video, for stuff like that, I can just send it to Drive, open Chrome or Safari, go on Drive and download it. And especially with modern Google Photos, with modern LTE upload and download speeds, it's a couple of seconds and I've uploaded like 4 or 5 gigabytes to Drive. And then within a couple of seconds, I've downloaded it. And I will actually tell you one thing, right? Where I was using Filmic Pro with the more advanced settings using like H.264, 10-bit and stuff like that, when I want to airdrop it to the MacBook, I have to wait about 10, 15 minutes for it to convert the footage. And then I have to wait like another 5 minutes for it to send it over, right? And even that then would fail sometimes. I'm actually finding it's a more consistent process and quicker to send it to Drive.
Yeah.
You know,
I've been doing it for years.
That's a good point. Cloud storage definitely is way faster.
Universal control is nice. It's a very nice feature to have. And when iCloud does eventually update itself so that the photos gallery on the iPad reflects the photos gallery on the iPhone, I can drag it over, no problem. But I always had this really weird problem where it was taking like ages for them to sync up. and I'm not bothered to wait that. So I was always doing it from the iPhone. But there were times like I'll never forget this one time. I think it was like August or July, man. I was trying to throw a video from the iPhone to the MacBook. It took like an hour and a half. It took me like an hour and a half. I just couldn't find the MacBook. I was like, oh Lord. I was like, I thought this is supposed to be easy. And again, something that I've said to Antoine is the most reliable and quickest way to get footage onto a MacBook is an SD card.
It is.
The SD card never fails. You literally take out of the M50, you put it in the dongle, and it's there. There's no ifs, no buts. You're not going to not find the port unless you go blind in the space between them.
Absolutely. And they transfer at max speed.
Yeah. The read-write speeds are fantastic. I can't complain. Again, I just got to a point where like the ecosystem itself wasn't enough to keep me. It just wasn't enough. I'm quite content with having like my Pixel, the MacBook. I have my A series buds for my Pixel. I've got like a Mobvoi TicWatch that I'm using at the minute. Is it as good? Is it as polished? Is the hardware as good and as polished? Is the software as good as polished? Actually, no, I'm going to leave out the software. But is the experience as polished? No. Do I care? No, not really. Not really, to be honest with you. I can all of the shortfalls I can offset either very cheaply or for free. For example, if I want a reliable like piece of tech for fitness, I can just go out and buy a £40 ECG chest strap and connect it to the phone for when I'm working out. They're more reliable technically than wrist wearables for heart rates and stuff like that.
I try to tell you this.
So there are little workarounds and things like the fact that the Google ecosystem is agnostic. I can open it on Windows, MacBook, Chromebook, iPad. You can get the app. You can get the web version of it. It's all there. I just got to a point where it was just all a bit too basic for me and just wasn't fulfilling my needs personally. So that's for my mom. Yeah, man. So again, on Amazon.
Touch on this picture while we're talking about ecosystem.
Yeah, so my mom was always on the Pixel. My mom's getting a bit older now. She's pushing into her 60s. And I got her an iPhone because my sister and myself were on the iPhone. And one second, my TV is going to turn itself off. We were iMessaging, FaceTiming. If she had any problems, she lives very close to an Apple store. And I say close, I'm talking like 5 minutes walk, right? We gave her a Series 5 Apple Watch. We got abundance of Apple Watches in the family. My girlfriend was really kind enough to donate her Series 5 to my mum. But she just constantly kept bitching and moaning at me, fucking Apple piece of shit, fucking boring. I was like, okay, mum, like, I fucking heard you. Like, we'll get you a Pixel. So I went, Black Friday was coming around. I went on Amazon, £550 for a Pixel A-Buds, Series A buds, and a 6 Pro. You can't say no because it worked out. The phone was £485 for a phone and £65 for the Pixel Buds. That's a deal, The Pixel Watch LTE I picked up today for £150, brand new in the box, sealed, never used. They're going for dirt cheap because it's Google and the depreciation is strong, which worked in my favor. So that whole picture there is £700.
Yeah.
I'm not going to include the £15 for the case because it's just 15 quid.
And that's pretty good. And I do want to touch up on one thing real quick though, on this comment right here, because he is kind of right to a certain point, because because I actually have Google's ecosystem here. It's really, it's nothing like Apple's where it's a phone, watch, buds, and a computer. In an iPad, right? It's more of my Google TV, my Google speakers that's around the house. It's my phone, it's my watch, and it's my buds. And then it's also any other thing that can install Google apps on. So that includes my Mac, that includes my iPad, that includes my iPhone, that includes my Samsung tablet, and everything else. That is how strong Google's ecosystem actually is. And with their own products connected, of me controlling my house, like with my lights right here and my Google that's here and lights out there everywhere in my house, I'm controlling everything with my voice. Google ecosystem is built around your voice, and it's really, really good. Your voice, the apps, and everything else. So I wouldn't really call it a weak ecosystem, because again, it seems like we're trying to say the standard is Apple's. That's what we're trying to say.
I think,
and if we take that mindset away, then it's okay for Google to have their type of ecosystem, Samsung and Apple. Go ahead.
I think what it is people are so impressed by the fact that Apple's ecosystem is entirely first party, and it's as strong as it is with the quality of the hardware and the features. They've kind of set the standard, and that's what people want and expect. I completely see your point, and I do agree. Google's strength lies in the fact that you can take any Android software, any piece of hardware that runs Android software, and integrate it. So you're not limited to just first-party hardware, which I think is actually fantastic. If Lenovo are making a better tablet than Samsung, cool, that's great. I can go grab a Lenovo tablet. It's going to run all the same apps.
Yeah.
You're not limited. Or the fact that I can go and get a Tab S8 Ultra, use a Pixel, and I get full interconnectivity. It's fantastic. So I do understand that, but I think it's just overlooked because people are just that impressed by the fact that Apple's ecosystem is entirely first party.
So as tech creators, like as what I would call a techie, do we think that Samsung is finally no longer the go-to Android? Like as of now, 2022, with the Pixel 6 and 7 series being so successful and finally consistent,
man,
do we think they're
everywhere at the minute, man. They're everywhere at the minute.
I think the Pixels is definitely a good option at this point now. So if I had to say, I would say there's personally 3 players in the game in the US now. There's Apple, Google, and Samsung at this point. Even though Google is trailing behind both of them, I can easily recommend Google now. I can easily recommend them.
I look at it like this, right? I'm in an Exynos region, which is going to change from February this year, right? But when the Pixel 6a costs $299, how can I recommend you anything else?
Exactly. That's my point.
How do I recommend you an S22 or an S23, which is full HD as well? Okay, yes, it's 120 hertz, but it's got worse battery, doesn't have as good features, doesn't even have an as good camera. And I've had people say to me like, "Oh yeah, but it's got 108 megapixels." People forget that the general Joe on the street genuinely still thinks like megapixels are a measure of camera quality. And then when I showed them pictures I've taken with the 6A, they realized that that's not the way forward. You know, when I show people at work, like I work with people that changes every week because of what I do. When I showed, and I had a dude, I'll give you a good story. Dude pulled out a Samsung Flip. Now I could tell it was a 3 or a 4. And I said, "Oh, sorry, mate. Like, is that a Flip 3 or a Flip 4? He's like, "Oh, Flip 3. And I was like, "Look, I do YouTube, blah, blah, blah." I gave him the spiel. And I was like, "I just want to ask you a few questions. Is that cool?" He's like, yeah, cool, man. And he goes like, "Oh, I asked him some questions." And I was like, so my last question to him was like, "Going forward, would you consider a flip or a fold again?" And he said, "Definitely wouldn't. I think it's a gimmick. I want to stay on Android." Oh, by the way, that was also his first Android. He was a lifelong iPhone user. So his comment, his answer to my last question was, "I wouldn't get a flip or a foldable, but I definitely want to stay on Android. It's the better operating system." He found it more functional and more intelligent, which are all the hallmarks of Android, right? So I said to him, I was like, "Cool, so you're due an upgrade. Let me go and get my Pixel. Let me show you a couple of features." And I'm not trying to push him to it, but he's a guy in his 30s. And I said, I'm guessing you've got young kids. And he's like, "Yeah, I've got 2 young children." I said, "So camera matters to you?" And he said, "Yes." So I showed him the pictures that I've taken with my Pixel 7 Pro of like some family friends and, their kids when I've just wanted to take some sample photos and stuff like that, my dogs and just general scenery. He was very impressed by the photos. Then I showed him things like call screening, and I showed, how simple it is to use. It's built in, and the voice dictation. And it's just like my neighbor who got the 6A. The camera and those functional features sold people on the Pixel. Also, I said to him, pairing the fact that the network he was looking at is offering a £300 Christmas shopping voucher to get a Pixel 7 Pro. They're making it a very enticing deal to pick one up.
They are.
It's cheap on the monthly, good incentives to take it. You're getting the free Pixel Watch, and the features that I show people, they matter to them. And I explained to him, I said, look, Google owned Android, it's their phone. You're going to get great support. You're going to get updates all the time. You don't have to update to get the new features. They will feature drop them to you when the new Android drops or within a couple of months or weeks. And people are like, that's a great deal. Why would I not take it up? So the dude went and got a Pixel 7 Pro. So I'm a week later rocking the Pixel 7 Pro.
Yeah. I agree, man. I totally agree. Like the best thing about that. Oh yeah, you want to tackle on this right quick? Tackle on this.
I don't know the numbers, but I do think it's changing. I
It's
don't
actually
know the
doubled.
specific numbers.
It doubled.
Yeah.
1.5% to 3%.
Yes.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but when in one generation you double your market share, it's a significant achievement. And I'm just going to go into I'm going to roll into the fact that I've never seen more pixels. Like with the 6 series, I started spotting them more and more often.
Yes.
Right? It was like once, twice a month you would see it. I'm seeing Pixel 7s and 7 Pros and Pixel watches very often now. Like I was at my company's head office in Bournemouth here in the UK. I work for Siemens. You all know Siemens. Big German company. We've got a head office here in Bournemouth. So I was there. Young guy walking through the office and just a techie in me out the corner of my eye just spotted that Pixel watch. And I went, sorry, mate, is that a Pixel watch? He's like, yeah, it's a Pixel watch. And I was like, I need to talk to you. Stay there, don't move. I was like running over there, like, so. Like, is that your first Pixel? And he's like, yeah, it is. And he's like, it's great. He goes, I've always used Samsung. It's my first Pixel. I'm really impressed with the software. I was like, what do you think of the watch? And he's like, yeah, it could be a little bit better. It feels a bit like this and that. I don't like the big bezels. I was like, cool. Interesting point. He's Joe Blogs and he's talking about the bezels. So I think it's great that they gave away so many Pixel watches. To take that loss financially for a company like Google is very minor, but it's a big incentive to get people on board, and it's clearly working.
It is. Yes.
Like you look at it in the renders and the marketing, it looks very premium.
Yes.
And I've had some people say to me it's very expensive at 349, and I say to them like, yes and no, because it's a first generation product, so it's expensive in my opinion for what it is, but it's made of steel. You're not going to really find that many other steel smartwatches for £330. I mean, this Mobvoi TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS, fucking Bruce Lee, whatever the fuck they called it. It's great, but it's entirely plastic and it costs £290.
Yeah.
£40 more gets you a steel Pixel watch, which has Wear OS 3, good voice dictation. It'll get good support.
Guaranteed software support. Yeah,
and the software is fluent. It's a wonderful.
Yeah, so I mean, I went to check out the Pixel watch in a store, and yes, it's small. Yes, it's a 29mm display. But I like two things. I like that all of the UI is dark and it goes in with the bezel. It tricks my mind. It genuinely tricked my mind into making it feel like it's bigger than it is. I genuinely walked in the store. I was like, oh, it's going to be shit. Like, it's going to be a piece of shit. Like, I'm not going to like it. Actually, I did. The display is nice. And the haptics were nice. But what really got me was how fluid everything was.
Yeah.
And it was just nice to navigate and put on and stuff like that. And I was like, actually, I kind of dig this. I think I can learn to tolerate the shortcomings, just the first generation feel and the small display and the bezels. If the software is good and it's fluid, you can live with it. Because really, all I care about is the voice dictation and just checking my notifications and stuff like that. I'm aware that the fitness tracking isn't as good as Apple's. Like I said, I can sidestep that with a £40 chest strap.
Yeah.
So
and the watch experience hasn't really been bad. I will admit that on the first impressions on my boxing video, I was really complaining about how small this watch was. And don't get me wrong, if they make a bigger watch next year, I'm still going to upgrade this watch regardless. But I will say. It's one of those situations where like people said they had an iPhone and the notch disappeared. the small size of this watch has disappeared to me. It's not a factor to
Yeah.
me anymore. But the minute I grab my Galaxy watch or my Tick watch or something else, then it comes back. I'm
Something
like,
to compare it to. Yeah.
So, yes,
And-
when I have something to compare it to. So, you know, other than that, it's been great.
One thing I want to touch on as well, another reason that I chose to switch away from the iPhone is their hardware development is too slow for my liking. You know, even with Dynamic Island, some people say
it's similarity. Yeah.
Some people say it's less intrusive. Some people say it's more intrusive. It's subjective. It's your experience. I'm not going to invalidate it. Yeah. I can't speak for you. Personally, I found the Island less intrusive, but at the same time, whilst it was less intrusive than the Notch, it was still more intrusive than it needed to be, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's like swapping one evil for another. Looking at like the pinhole displays, the cutouts on Android, how much nicer it is to just watch your content. And the fact that they still have the curved edges and stuff like that. And this Pixel is 6.7 inches, but nice and light. It's nice. It's nice. I like the fact that everything's already been USB-C on Android for years. I'm freed from Lightning, finally. You know?
Okay, so
except when you get your AirPods Max back to Lightning.
Yeah, I know, man. But one other thing I will say is as well, Android are much quicker to try features like the periscope zoom and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I find it so shambolic that in 2022, for a £1,250 device, I still have fucking 3x zoom. And even then, like they haven't even attempted to clear up the zoom issue with improved digital zoom. Like if I go and get a Pixel 7 or a 6A and I zoom in 5x and then I compare that to an iPhone shot, even the 6A is going to take that 14 Pro Max to task. And that bothers me. I shouldn't be paying 4 times more for inferior camera performance.
That's fair. Yeah, that's definitely
very
fair.
That's a lot of money, man.
You can at least
is more
try.
important than people think it is.
It is. I mean, it's always those people who actually have an iPhone that says they don't care about these things because they just don't have
They're lying. They're lying.
Yeah. And I look, man, I totally agree with you, man. Look, I have an iPhone. I want that shit on my iPhone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I don't want this stuff. If I see a cool feature, and I'm not gonna call it a gimmick because you can't call something a gimmick that you never even tried yet. First of all, you know, just because you don't have it, you can't call it a gimmick if you never even tried it. I hear people keep saying these folds are gimmicks, but I see so many people using these folds, business or for photo. I see a photographer. I see a photographer who takes his camera and connect it to the fold, transfers photos, start editing on Lightroom. You can't call shit like that a gimmick, man. It's because you don't have it.
That has its uses for people like photographers. One place I've found the fold a lot was before I was working for Siemens. I spent the last 10 years as a heavy duty industrial commercial electrician, right? Working on big, dirty, rough building sites. And like I saw a lot of project managers, developers, people who need to manage the job or their company as a subcontractor pulling out a fold and a pen. And a lot of the dudes really appreciated having that form factor. And I'll say to them, like, are you not scared, like in this environment, if something gets under that hinge and you open it, it's just going to crack the display? And he was like, it is what it is. You know, he's like Val Kilmer. If he dies, he dies.
I mean, but that's so true, man. Like, that's why I say, like, with these features today, you know, people like the cost of gimmick when they just don't have it. I'm like, bro, try it out. You never know. And it is what it is. You know, me, I never speak about tech that I never own. You would know that on my channel. You would know that on Twitter. I would never talk about anything that I have not owned. That's just me 100%.
I mean, every opportunity I get, I pick up my dad's Fold 2 when I visit London to see my parents. And I love fucking opening Gmail on the big display, YouTube, typing as well. Typing is fantastic on the Fold. You know, people complain about the 2 hands. I like the fact that I can hold it and it's like, I find it quite quick. I don't need to swipe type. My only gripe with Folds in their current form factor is the front display. Something that I've had fed back to me a lot is people found it very irritating. This is from Twitter and in person, people I've spoken to, is if you get like the odd notification they can't really reply from the front screen. So they find themselves constantly opening it, which also then plays into the fact that we know that the foldables durability is still in a questionable capacity. Some people will can take them to task and nothing will happen. And then some people, they just like, a friend of mine got one for his wife. She took it out of her back pocket. And this is a Fold 4. She had it for 48 hours. The screen was cracked with no explanation. So the durability question still applies. So if Samsung made that front display larger, you're getting rid of a lot of unnecessary opening. People don't want to have to constantly open and close it to send one simple message.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's why I am hyped AF for the Pixel Fold. Like Google software and camera with the Android 12L features, but just
actually 13 now at this point.
Oh, is it 13L now?
Yeah, it's going to be 13 now. Yes.
So 13L, right? With their knack for having innovative software features, how can you not be excited?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I do agree. The form factor of the Pixel Fold is way more intriguing than the Galaxy Fold for sure.
And in good old Google fashion, now obviously John Prosser said that his renders and his and Ian's renders are based on photos of the final prototype. I like the fact that they've chosen to just have a bit of bezel at the top, but to give the aspect ratio, make it more functional. And maybe they include some speakers in there or something, And from what we can tell from these renders now, I don't know how accurate they are or aren't. There's no crease and there's no like V tape in the fold. There's no tape in it. We've seen the Oppo Find N, no crease, no V tape in the hinge or anything like that. So it is doable. We've seen it with the Mi Mix Fold 2 from Xiaomi.
Yep.
I don't know what they sacrificed for that. Other companies seem to be taking a very different engine from an engineering standpoint. They all seem to have very different takes. I'm really interested to see where Google goes with this. I'm hoping the Pixel Fold is more like the Oppo Find N. Because, man, I'm telling you now, if Oppo sold that thing in the UK, I'd be tempted. Even if it's Oppo. Because it's just got the larger front display. But yeah, man, I think it's a good time to move over to Android. I will say that one of the things that also played into me moving over to the Pixel is how many little features. I'm going to stay on topic with the title of our stream today. Is how many features in Pixel software that are native just accumulate so much, like the intelligence of the Google Photos app, Magic Eraser. The fact that if I'm in a conversation and it spots something like, do you want me to set a reminder for this tomorrow? Oh, it's Gaylon's birthday. Do you want to put this in your calendar and then we can repeat it every year?
We talk about the weather, stuff like that.
The weather, and it's saying like, and then it gave me, was it with you, Antoine?
Yeah, it was us.
Yeah,
we were talking about the weather or something. Then it popped up in the chat and was asking,
you want to check the weather for tomorrow?
Yeah. That's what it was.
No, I don't want to check the weather, but thank you for asking. It's just these intelligent little things like that just add up.
That are native.
Such a great experience. And I love Google's native apps themselves are so well made. They're so intelligent. They're so functional and helpful. And then again, going back to the fact that nothing in iOS has changed since iOS 7, even their native apps like the calendar app and stuff like that, they just suck. They suck. The only native app that doesn't suck for me personally, again subjective, some people have said it sucks, is the email app. They put time into the email app.
Okay, gotcha.
Right? But there's been no improvement to the phone app, the messages app, And I like the fact that with the Pixel, if they want to change something, they can do an individual app, including the camera, over the Play Store. Whereas if I need something from Apple, it has to come in a however often
a huge
they
OS
schedule
update,
an iOS update. Because once iOS 16 is dropped, you're going to get like new emojis, bug fixes. You're not getting absolutely anything noteworthy. Sometimes we get a new feature that we saw at WWDC with the 0.1 or 0.2 version. That's as good as it gets. But you're only getting that because they promised it with the OS anyway.
Yeah.
You know, whereas like Google 6 months from now could say like, shit, we've got this really cool new feature. We didn't even know it was going to happen, but here you go. You can have it over an update.
Yeah, we got a feature drop next month coming.
I didn't even know about that. And we'll talk about that later. But I wanted to emphasize the fact that also, for example, let's take the iPhone 14 series HDR issue. Even I spoke to Aaron Zolo. I got in touch with Aaron Zolo and I said to him, Aaron, do you know if Apple can update the camera over an iOS update, like 0.1, 0.2, whatever? Do you know if they ever have? Do they update? Do you know if they even update the camera's performance over the lifespan of the device? Or is it a case of, this is what you got day one, tough shit, fuck you, this is what you got, live with it, suck it up. You know, also, I just want to point out, I don't know if anyone else thought this, but when I said, do you know, in my head, I was like, do you know the Muffin Man?
Yeah, I've never known Apple to actually fix any, camera issues over any, software.
You can't even answer the question.
As far as I know. You're right.
It bugs me. Why can't the guy even said, I've looked through, he does very detailed iOS update videos and general Apple software. He's never seen it in the footnotes for the updates. So they clearly must not do it.
That's insane.
Because why would you not update it? Why would you not say, a lot of people argued when I put this on Twitter, like, oh yeah, but if they did that, it might make it like damage the brand and make all this. No, it wouldn't. How would that make you look bad? If you're telling me you're aware you can improve my camera performance, or you can add something, why would you not? I think they need to compartmentalize their native apps in the iOS App Store so they can do individual updates. And also looking at how RCS is developing and the things you can actually do more with RCS than you can with iMessage. You can send a whole file. I've sent Antoine a whole ringtone over RCS. It's fire.
Sure did.
What are the limitations in iMessage?
Sorry?
In terms of what are the limitations in iMessage in regards to the file?
Media is pretty much it. Pictures and video.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense.
Pretty much it. But looking at just the way Google's Messages app is structured, with the spam and block folder, a lot of the intelligent features that they're adding and how quickly they're doing it, I think Apple, if they're not careful, they're going to find themselves in some very hot water soon. They need to start innovating. And remember what I was saying earlier, they don't feel like the same company. They're just not being as innovative as they used to be in any sense. And I really do feel like a lot of it comes from the fact that every year for the last 3-4 years, they've made more and more money, more and more sales. I genuinely feel like someone or a group of people at senior management at Apple is just taking a step back, looking at the broader picture and going, yeah, this is fine. This is great. We don't need to do anything because you're all still paying for it.
Yep. There it is right there.
Yeah, this is something I definitely wanted to hit because this is something that iMessage just doesn't do, like a web-based, basically a web-based way to carry over.
Which you can install on the MacBook as well.
Yeah, you can install it on the MacBook. You can install it on the iPad. Yep.
I think that's the advantage that Google has right now is because for iMessage to work, you have to have an Apple device, but for RCS to work, you do not. I even got RCS on my iPad as a shortcut. So it works across the board. I think the only thing, there's still more features that Google need to add, and I know they are. So I'm not even tripping because they've been doing a lot of good progress right now. And I know for their messaging apps to mature as where iMessage is at now, they need time. But I really think they need to tackle the email sign-in because that would be a big game changer. Being able to have all my pixels on RCS, or I just said pixels,
for sure.
All my Android stuff.
What that relies on though is them setting up their own servers.
Yes.
The way RCS works currently, where it's carrier reliant, I would be more than happy for Google to just eliminate them from the equation and do what Apple does and just host it on their own servers.
Yeah,
I'd be more than happy for them to do that.
And it may come or it may not. We just don't know what their big plan is because it ain't like they're openly telling us, but they do tell us about the changes coming to RCS. But as far as that change, we don't know yet. And I hope that they do get to that point one day, because even Google don't allow carriers to put their splash screen on the Pixels. You know,
Good.
Samsung still allow that. You know what I'm saying? And when you get a Pixel, you don't even have the T-Mobile apps up there if you ever bought one. Because I did buy one from T-Mobile before, but I haven't in a while because I just buy my Pixels at this point because, you know, I just like them unlocked.
Yeah.
But also your updates are also controlled by Google on carriers. So that's another thing. So if Pixel and Apple would be the only two phones on a carrier that is kind of still controlled 100% by the companies, while Samsung, you still have to go through the carrier for your updates and wait and prolong the updates. So I'll say that Google is on the right track. They just need to you know, over the next few years, they need to iron out a lot more things, and they could be on the same ball field as everybody else. And, you know, it is what it is, man. So
one thing that I feel is clear is Google are really trying. It's so obvious that there is a real concerted effort. And I've said something for years, right? I always felt like they lacked effective leadership. They never had a leader who just took it by the balls and said, "That's the direction we're going in. Follow me. This is the plan, the path we're taking. This is our ethos and mantra for Pixel." Oh, sorry guys, one sec. Where's my mouse on? I feel like they've got that now. What the hell? Sorry, I got Apple Music playing. Fuck off. Sorry. But I feel like they've got that now with the Pixel Watch coming into play, the tablet, and the way they describe the tablet fitting into the Google Home ecosystem. There's clear thought. There's a trajectory of an endpoint, what they would like to establish it as. Yeah. Thank God, because when you have clear leadership and a set path that you want to follow, it makes things a lot easier compared to before, where they were just randomly like pissing in the wind and just kind of seeing what happens.
And what works. Like Samsung did that for many years. They just made shit and just say, hey, let's see if it works. Google, you're right.
This is where Apple has always had a massive advantage. They've always had strong leadership with a plan that was years and years ahead. They always know what's next down the line.
Yep.
And Google's getting to that point where they're thinking like, this is our 5 or 10-year plan. You know, and that will reflect in your customer's experience.
Yep, and that's why so many projects have probably failed, like for Google in the past. They just gave up on it because they didn't have a plan for it in the future.
I think that's going to change. I think that's going to change.
I mean, 100%.
I think one argument or one topic that people need to stop discussing is Google going to ever give up the Pixel? I'm sorry, but nobody invests
they're not going
this much into Tensor,
they're just getting started.
They're just getting started. You know,
they could have given up on the Pixel a long time ago before investing back into it, as well as marketing on top of that. You know,
if they were going to give up, that point was like at latest the Pixel 5. Once they crossed over into the Pixel,
the 4
or the 4, I mean, once they crossed over into that Tensor territory with 6, you knew they were here to play.
Yeah, they were in it for the long run.
They want a seat at the table. You know.
Yep.
And I do genuinely respect what they're doing with Tensor. Like, no, it doesn't have the benchmarks, but do I care? Frankly, no. Because what matters is the day-to-day performance has significantly improved from the last generation. The thermals have improved. The battery life is significantly better. And they changed all of that in one generation, including Android 13. I think that's a very quick turnaround. You know, a lot of hard lessons were learned.
I'm going to say this now, man. Like, if you ever use like the Pixel and you got a fully functional working Pixel, those benchmark numbers will not ever matter to you. They would never matter to you because the phone works that good based off their software alone. Just their optimization and everything else, just alone. Those sheer
image
numbers
processing and the speed.
It means nothing unless you sitting here. And I don't have my iPhone with me, but if you put your iPhone next to your Pixel, you try to go render a video or play a game, then now you're sitting here nitpicking because now you're trying to see which one does what faster. But if you're walking around with just a Pixel or just a Galaxy phone or just an iPhone, and you have nothing to compare it to, if the phone functions and works the way it's supposed to for your day-to-day, none of those numbers matter on any of those devices, literally.
Yeah,
unless
man. I mean,
you feel like you some kind of power hungry video editor on your phone consistently, and you need an extra minute to render the video faster than waiting on another phone that renders it a minute less. I mean, I don't see that for nobody in this world. Nobody. So,
I mean, the only thing I'll add to that is for the things that matter, like the speed of the image processing, the voice dictation, Tensor is fine. It's more than fine. It's great, but people are like, "Oh man, well it's only on par with the A13." It's like, yeah, but those are still great numbers.
It is.
You're for what you're trying to accomplish on a mobile phone, on a mobile device. Those are healthy numbers. You're not left needing horsepower. You're not seeing any lag or anything like that. If your device isn't lagging and it's running apps well, then you're fine. And that was proven with the Pixel 5 generation. It ran top tier software on a 700 series Snapdragon, and it did it well.
Wow.
And then you look at Samsung, using Snapdragon 8 Generation 1 and the Plus, and their software is still stuttering and choking. I'm sure you're all familiar with Chad Torres from Twitter on Purposely Pixel.
Yes.
Yeah, so we were talking the other day. He bought an S22 Ultra from Best Buy for $600. He returned it inside 72 hours. And he said because all his apps were crashing and he was having problems and stuff like that. The shutter lag was still there. So it just goes to show you don't have to have the fanciest silicon. And again, I mean, look at like the A16, the A15, very strong benchmarks, very strong, right? But it's got all the horsepower, but it's pulling nothing. They're not making any good use of it.
It's Google. Google proved that the hardware don't always matter. They literally proved that, literally. So I don't know how else to put that. Their Tensor chip is one of the weakest chips on the market. If you go by numbers, their watch chip is the weakest number. Every hardware they have is like the weakest compared to everybody else, but yet it's performing better than most. And some people will argue that the Pixels are performing better than the new iPhones on the block. And I'm not going to sit there and say that they're lying, because I believe them, and I believe the people who think that that is not performing better, and I believe the ones that think it is, because that's their experience. So I have to just go off whatever you say your experience is. But I can tell you right now, putting my Pixel neck to neck beside an iPhone 14, or at least my wife's iPhone 14 Pro, the Pixel feels so much smoother for some weird reason. And not taking anything away from the iPhone, because if I didn't have them two to compare, then both phones would be excellent without being compared. But if I'm sitting here swiping and sliding and going through the OS and stuff like that, I can feel the difference. But that's me having both phones in my hand. Same person will argue that the Pixel was much slower and the iPhone is much better. It could be biased between the people, or even including myself, but I try to keep it 100 with everybody. If something feels better on something, it feels better. Like my iPad is way more fluent than my Galaxy tablet. I can tell you that right now. I love my Galaxy tablet more, but I will admit that my old ass iPad runs better than my new Galaxy tablet. But the Galaxy tablet is no slouch, is what I'm trying to say. But when you compare it side by side, I can see the difference. But if I take one away out of the equation, I'm just using it, I would never be able to tell the difference. And I did want to say something about the Samsung market share over here. Samsung just had the market share because everybody else fell off.
That's why I had that comment up. I was going to say the same thing. That's not a recent thing at all. It's because no one else on the Android world was trying. Samsung was pushing and marketing like crazy for the past 10, 15 years, and literally no one else. That's why LG died off. They didn't market their products like Samsung did.
HTC died the same way. Their marketing was trash using Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr.
I wanted to hit this one. Wear OS is much better because they blended the good stuff from Tizen with it. I'd like to ask what from Tizen did they bring over, because I don't see basically anything on regular Wear OS, like on the Samsung version of it.
There's nothing Tizen. I've used both. There's nothing Tizen about it. But kudos to Samsung. Sorry, I was going to say kudos to Samsung. They make good wearable processors. They definitely
they
make them.
Yeah.
Looking at how the Pixel Watch performs with a 4-year-old processor, which was the original Galaxy Watch, which was my first smartwatch, I was very impressed. You know, I gave it a lot of shit on Twitter. I was like, what the fuck? Why are you using a 4-year-old processor? No, but but then it's like, okay, cool. Like it does kind of work. So, you know, I'm not overly bothered. Oh, my dog's trying to break in. But yeah, you know, they do make some good wearable tech. Samsung makes some really good wearable tech. You'll have to give me 2 minutes. My dog's going to break down the door. I'm just going to go get him.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, yeah, the Pixel Watch doesn't feel like there's any Tizen in here at all. I got my Galaxy Watch in a drawer.
Tizen implementation at all in the Pixel Watch. I don't think
it's not. In fact, I wish it had it, to be honest with you, because I've been using Tizen. Well, I don't want to say Tizen. I've just been using the Galaxy Watches for so long that I'm actually used to the navigation on it.
Yeah.
So
exactly,
when I pick up my Pixel Watch, I'm like, oh, that's right. This is for this and this is for that. So it's a lot more confusing, but I'm getting used to it at the moment. And I definitely think that this watch is faster than any Galaxy Watch that I own. I'm not going to say everyone on the market. I'm just going to say any Galaxy Watch that I own. And as far as an Apple Watch goes, I still have the 5 series. I never felt the need to upgrade past that. So I'm not going to sit here and try to compare this watch to that, because this one will, feel way more fluent than that. But if I'm pretty sure if I had the new one, I can probably compare them, neck to neck. But if I had to say which one was more polished as far as like software features and syncing with the phone, obviously Apple got that locked down. Google this is their foot in the door, and now they just got to add these features. But because it's Google, I'm expecting it to come. It's just that simple. It's going to come.
Right. It's going to get better over time for sure.
I wish that it was out the box, but I'm looking at it like this. The Pixel 6 was their new phone, their new chip beta phone. Pixel Watch, first watch, beta watch. Pixel Buds Pro, beta headphones. The tablet that's coming, I think is going to be a beta tablet, everything like that. So I'm not going to be real harsh and judge all of these products, though I feel like Apple probably could have done so much better out the gate because, of the technology that we already have today.
Right.
That's the only thing that sits in the back of my mind. Like, man, you telling me that all the competition on the market, you couldn't have done better with this? Like, in my mind. Thank you for the coffee. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. And I had to take a breather. When I get donations, man, it's not often. But yes, thank you. All right, but yeah, I feel like they could have done so much better out the gate. But if I got to beta test these products and give my feedback and let them know what they can make change or make better, then I would. It's okay, because we all been there. If all of us in this community right here, we all been there on first gen products before. Whether it was Samsung, whether it was Apple, whether it was LG,
Galaxy
HTC,
Watch,
we all Galaxy. Yeah, we all been there, and we knew what we hated about it. We knew what changes we wanted, and then we seen the maturity of it over the years. We've seen what the Apple Watch came from and where is that now. We've seen the Galaxy Watch where it came from and where's that now. So, out of respect, we just got to give Google that same time to
give them time and space.
Yeah. Because I think
like one of the most important things is they take feedback on board. I'm aware of the fact that people on Team Pixel get to have a meeting with them every so often where they take feedback from Team Pixel, which Team Pixel are then passing on your feedback for you guys, the viewers. That goes back to them. I mean, I relay feedback about Petar products recently this week back to Petar. If you guys, our viewers from our channels, have something to say, tell us, and we will feed it back. But going back to what Dali said, I mean, yeah, look, if there's no first generation products, you're never going to get it, and it's not going to improve.
Yep.
And I think one thing, I don't know if you touched on it, you might have. The first generation products you're seeing now are significantly better than the first generation products you were seeing 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I was
like
honestly
100%.
As beta and as first generation as the Pixel Watch is, if you compare that to the first generation Apple Watch, it's actually more fluid.
Yeah.
It's a more fluid experience.
I agree.
I mean, why not try it out? I mean, it's 2022. Why not try it out? That's how I feel about products now.
If you really want to try it out, Google's depreciation is like a stone getting dropped in a pool. It works in your favor. Go on Facebook Marketplace and pick one up for £150 or $150. People are giving them because they got given away. People are just selling them because they don't want go get one. I mean, look at this one. Never been opened. All the seals are still on. You know, for £150. How can I say no?
Yeah.
So it's cheap for you to go out and try it. And if you want to play it safe, get yourself a Galaxy Watch 4 on Amazon. It's $150. That's a lot of watch for $150. I was very fortunate. I tried the 4 and the 4 Classic.
Market, even the used market for the 5s are still insane right now. Like you could get a Watch 5 for 200, Watch 5 Pro for between 200 and 300. And I just wanted to hit this question real quick because I saw it in here. What watch do you recommend right now? I want the Pixel Watch, but it's too small.
Watch
Galaxy. 5 Pro. Yeah, I would say Watch 5 Pro. If you don't need all the features, I would go Amazfit.
Not even just a Watch 5 Pro. He can probably go with the 4 and be fine. The 4 is not even bad. So I would say
if you have no budget, I would go Watch 5 Pro.
If you got the budget, go Watch 5 Pro, man. You got the sapphire display, titanium
the
body,
battery life,
3 days of battery.
Yeah.
And for $429 or $380 for the Bluetooth model, that's a lot of watch. That is a lot of watch. Because for those same things, you're coughing up $850 for an Apple Watch Ultra.
Yeah.
You know?
Joshua, look, I was about to say, Joshua, I don't know what country you're in. That's the first thing I'm going to say.
He's in the US, I believe.
He is.
If you're in the US, you need to pay attention to what Google is doing right now because the
Google is doing that in the UK. They are giving you £780 for a 12 Pro Max, which means you're only giving them £70 cash for a 7 Pro. That's insane.
I have a lot of conversations with Josh a lot. He's like one of my biggest fans on my channel and stuff. I appreciate you, by the way, Josh. But look, what he is saying right now is that the reason why he upgrades from Samsung to Samsung every single time is because
a lot of people do.
Their trade-in. Hold on, their trade-in deals are just as good as Google's right now, right? But Samsung is an instant trade-in. That's where you are slapping everybody. It's instant. If the phone is $1,200 and they're trading in, your trading is like $600 or something like that, then you just pay what's left of that. You don't have to, and you would buy it, and then you don't even have to send the product off first. You don't even have to send it off. They would let you buy it, check out, get it delivered to your house. You can walk around with both watches on. You can walk around with both phones in your hand.
Like a cashback type thing.
Yes. In Google, you pay the full price, no matter what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and you gotta wait.
Send the device off, and then you have to wait to get that money back.
Yeah, that's what we did for my father-in-law 6A.
Yes. So nobody right now is touching Samsung when it comes to the trading deals because of that.
Apple is the same.
I even heard on Trent's video, Trent even said it one time, and I was like, so this is what people are doing. Trent literally ordered, like, I think it was the S22U or maybe it was the Fold. He did a trade-in. He got the max trade-in value for the Fold, right? And it may have been like, I don't know, $400 that he had to pay, right? So he pretty much did that, got the Fold, used it, and then just sent it back when he was done with it and just got his little bit of money back without even having to send off the products that he promised to send them in the first place, because he went ahead and just canceled the phone completely. That's how good the trade-in deals are.
Even Apple doesn't do that. Even Apple, you get the refund later.
Yes.
You know,
and I think that's why.
Hats off to Samsung, man. And even they even do the watches as well. They were offering people like $250 for their 4 Classic towards a 5 Pro, just to get it out there, you know. And one thing I will say as well, the incentives on carriers in the UK and the US to get a Samsung are very strong. Yeah, very strong. You know, they were giving away like Galaxy Watch 4 Classics with the Z Fold 3, the stylus and the charger as well. They were giving away a whole bunch of stuff. Google hasn't entirely caught them up and probably won't. But the fact that they're giving you £780 for a 12 Pro Max is fantastic.
Yeah. I'll give Google,
and giving away the watch.
Do have good excuse me. Google do have good trade-in deals, but like I say, it's just that instant thing that is killing a lot of people. I feel like if they actually gave away the stuff instantly, if it was an instant deal, the Google, I'm not going to sit here and say they'd be killing the market, but they can really climb in the market, because I even went up there, was about to trade in my 6 for the 7, and I only had to pay a $50 difference, but that's after they expect my phone and check it, make sure it is what it is, and then they send me my money back, and I would have paid $50. Everybody that was in expense that wanted to know if I got it, I did not get it. I changed my mind because I decided that I'm going to give my phone to my mom. I'm just going to give the 6 to my mom. I was, talking with her before the holidays, and she was saying something about what her Samsung phone couldn't do and something like that. Because my mom, she buys like some of the cheapest phones ever, and I give her a flagship. She breaks it. She breaks it every single time, but I'm going to give her the Pixel, and I'm going to give her an auto box for it. I'm going to give her a screen protector because of the flat display, not a curved one like the ones that she had before. And I'm just going to make sure that it's fully protected. I'm just going to give it to her because I want her to have a good phone experience, and she loves cameras. And, that Samsung lag on the phones that she be getting, because she doesn't get the newest Samsung phones, and even they have shutter lag.
I mean, one thing I will
not even that. She get like the 8. She get like the 8, 9, and 10. She get the old flagship. I don't let her buy a cheap. Yeah. I make sure. Even if I have to pay extra money for her and be like, Mom, just get this one instead. She'd be like, I don't want to pay that much for a phone. So
one thing I will say, and it's a pain point for me, is my dad loves his Fold 2, like really loves it. And as I'm getting older, I find more and more value in having a good camera on these devices. And seeing him constantly struggle with the shutter lag, and the fact that as an average Joe, he's not aware of it. And I had to explain to him, like, just hold it there for an extra 2 seconds, even after just wait until you see it in that preview display. Right. It's a shame because Samsung's photography is actually pretty good. Right. But that lag, I've seen so many comments on Twitter where people were saying, like, I've missed so many pictures of my child. And actually, my next door neighbor has said the same thing. Once my upstairs neighbor got the Pixel and she saw how good the pictures were, my neighbor across the hall, directly opposite me, who has a Samsung, said, I want pictures of my kids. And she was referencing a story where, like, they went to like a soft play kind of bouncy place. She wanted to get a picture and they were all blurry as shit.
Right.
And just that alone just switched her off.
Yeah.
So the lag thing is real, man. The lag thing is real, and it needs fixing.
It's crazy because I seen a guy make a whole video, and he said it's the way Samsung actually do their pictures. It's not a lag. That's what I'm just gonna honestly sit here and say what I think. I think that if you look at his channel, it looks like a fanboy channel for Samsung. So he came up with this crazy reason why it's not shutter lag and why Samsung did it on purpose, or is the way they're using cameras. They're using it wrong. That's what he was trying to say, that we're using it wrong. And then I'm gonna say one more thing. And then with iPhones, right, when it comes to the HDR, how the HDR, when you tap, it just blows out of focus. It just fucks everything up when you tap the focus. Is not supposed to do that. Now being a photographer, if you think about any camera that I've used over the generations, both of those problems that these people try to make excuses for, shutter lag and the HDR, it doesn't even work. It doesn't even work like that on regular cameras. So why should it work like that on a phone? If you pick up an Android phone and you tap the focus, it's going to focus the subject, right? And then it's still going to keep and it's going to keep all the HDR going on. It's going to keep everything. But the way the iPhone works is that when you tap it, it's going to put all the focus on that subject and fuck everything else, pretty much. And then the other excuse that I heard people say, well, if it does it, then you got the little slider. You click on the slider and use it. Okay, fine, right? But the average person wants to point and shoot.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If it ain't point and shoot, I don't want it.
Exactly.
So I'm serious.
How many consumers do you think just want like an automatic camera?
Every one of them.
Exactly. And how many people do you think are gonna go into manual settings, adjust the ISO?
Galen, do you remember your tweet where you said people saw the pictures from your S22 Ultra, and at that wedding you were the default photographer?
Yeah.
Do you know how many times I've had that with my Pixel?
Right.
All of the 6th generation. Anytime when there was a family event, my girlfriend's family, it's You're the photographer. You've got the Pixel. Can you come along? You know, and yeah, serious, man. And it used to bug me. I would like take my iPhone with me and try and do as good point and shoot. And the iPhone was literally 50-50, either completely lands it or it crashes and burns in all its glory.
Yes.
Right. With the Pixel, I had like a 99% success rate.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't panic. Like, you see the processing and stuff going on. Once you see that little processing circle come full, then you'll know you got it. Once that computational photography is done.
Right.
But one thing I want to touch on as well,
good.
I'm pretty sure I know why Samsung's got shutter lag. There was a list of sandboxed apps. Remember when it came out that Samsung was throttling their CPUs? One of the apps in the sandbox list is the camera app. Now, I remember at the time doing a bit of a deep dive because I've got bones to pick with Samsung on that issue. And it came down to the fact that it's got to be a case of their own camera app is so unoptimized that they have to sandbox it. So if you're sandboxing the camera app, if you're throttling that application and it's a CPU and GPU intensive app, you can't have it both ways. You can't throttle it. Either let it do its thing or not. The lag stems from the fact that the software, the OS, is programmed to throttle that app. That's where that lag stems from. And this is why I have a beef with Samsung to this day. Like, it's 2022. Your image pipeline needs to be nailed down. You know? So, they need to work on their software, man. It's a shame because they have the money and the resources to make it better. I like their ethos and their take on software, like hella customization and control. And they also don't help themselves with the fact they were constantly trying to use two different processors. If you're trying to optimize your software for two different architectures, it's never going to be quite as good. You're making a rod for your own back.
Yep.
Because at the same time, it's evident that you're not going to create two software teams. You're not going to double up on the resources.
Just think about it. You're using two different teams of engineers.
Just use one processor. If you're already paying Qualcomm for these chips, you know, roll with it. But Samsung have really shot themselves in the foot because their main business is fabricating electronic hardware, motherboards, displays. That's who they are at the core of their business. Their chip foundries are a massive deal for them. And they invested $10 billion into them. And, you know, I think as part of their strategy for moving away from Exynos was going to be bringing Snapdragon's manufacturing to Samsung to lower the cost. They probably had a deal with them. You know, from a business kind of point, it makes sense. We will make your chips. You sell them to us at a cheaper price, and we'll put them in all of our devices. And that literally went up in flames inside 6 months because Snapdragon always make that Plus version mid-cycle. Qualcomm turned around and said to Samsung, fuck you, see you later, you're shit, you can't make these chips, we're going to TSMC. And they were basically going to TSMC, knocking and begging, like, please let me in. Like, what's that film? He's like, let me in! You know,
I did.
They shot themselves in the foot. That 8 Gen 1 is a good chip, but manufactured in a Samsung foundry with their manufacturing process on Samsung nodes, it's not a good chip. The thermals are off, the battery's off. Look at the 8 Gen 1 Plus. It's like a completely new chip. Now, you don't get a whole new chip with such a dramatic change getting a Plus version. Think back to all the Plus versions before. They were never a dramatic change. The only dramatic change was the manufacturer.
Yep.
Samsung make their own problems. You won't see any other tech company do it like to the extent they do.
That's a major deal, yeah.
Generation to generation, they trip themselves up.
Wait, hold on. Because Apple is known for creating a problem and making a solution.
That's hardware. That's a business tactic.
I know.
That's a money maker.
No, I'm just messing. But you just said that, so I had to say that because that's what the narrative is.
It's like Tim Cook and Rick Osterloh must just stand at the side and go, "Wait a minute, it's about to do something stupid." It's just like that meme, and Samsung's just there, like, just wait a second, it's gonna do something stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the Exynos CPU is good for everything except for Samsung phones.
It needs to die. It just needs to go away.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree. I did want to mention something like this because I've been in this situation right here. Not at a wedding, obviously, because I am a photographer and I actually use a real camera. Everybody at the wedding be having iPhones, and it's so crazy because at a point in my life, I had to put into my contract that people, your family and friends, cannot use their phones while I'm shooting. Because if they do, it's breach of contract and I could leave out because I can't count how many times that I'm sitting here trying to shoot the first dance, shoot the cake, or shoot their first kiss, everything, right? Like everything that's important that they pay me for to shoot. I get somebody with an iPhone or a big ass iPad jump in front of me trying to take a picture with that shitty ass phone. And no, I'm not saying anything bad about the iPhones or anything because it could be an Android phone. I don't care. Compared to a real camera, all these phones are shitty. Yes. All these phones are shitty compared to a real camera. So I'm just gonna put it out there like that. That's how I feel about Eric. Don't take no shitty phone and bring it and put it in front of my $2,500 camera and try to get a shot that I'm getting paid for. Like it's gonna be some problems. So I feel this. This happens so much at these weddings. But to piggyback on that too as well, when I go to my family events, I'm the only one with a Pixel. Everybody sees my pictures, and then all of a sudden I become that photographer again. One, because I am one photographer, and then two, because they like the photos that come out of my Pixel over their iPhones. And I'm sitting here like, nah, you like your iPhone. Take a picture of your iPhone. And like even my brother to this day, his wife, she has an iPhone. Just the other day, on Thanksgiving, she went outside and it was nighttime. She was like, well, he was like, yo, big bro. I said, what's up, son? He was like, can I use your iPhone? My wife want to use your iPhone for her pictures. I was like, I mean, no, she will use your Pixel for her pictures. I'm like, why she don't use her iPhone? And he was like, I mean, your junk take good pictures. so I'm over here like, all right. I'm over here like, here you go.
Give him that Tim Cook quote, buy your mama Pixel.
Right. Right. But she don't want to switch. Obviously, she don't switch for like the reasons everybody else. iMessage, FaceTime, and her family. Pretty much. So
if you're in America, that is a genuine thing. I really can understand that.
It is a real thing, man. It is.
I really can understand. But one thing
I'm not triggering y'all. Don't worry. All phones are trash compared to a real camera.
The screenshot of that tweet you sent me, Antoine, about the guy saying I moved to the Pixel before my wife came this year. I think a lot of people are slowly over time going to get bored with iOS. Like, how hard is it to give it the Big Sur treatment? And what I mean by giving it the Big Sur treatment is just change the fucking icons. Make it feel new. It's a simple change that the average consumer will look at and it will feel like so much more than it really is. And even me, as someone who's more conscious of these things, even I would be fucking just that more content for it to look different.
Even better, custom icons.
Custom icons. Just
custom icons. More. Freedom on the grid. I mean, it's those two simple things that could change the way iOS is. If you can literally just move things around on that grid. But I guess to Tim, if it does that, it becomes Android, right? Because that is like one of the biggest key things that you can do on Android is be able to just customize the phone.
Yeah, that's.
I personally,
but this is one of the things that I like, and it was a reason, not a major reason, but one of the reasons I went back to the Pixel. My phone feels like my phone.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to go through absolute utter gymnastics to get a custom Pixel. A custom ringtone. Or I don't have to have like a whole second page of apps that I constantly have to swipe over to just to see my wallpaper.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just such a. I know it must sound to some of the audience ridiculous, but it drove me fucking nuts. It just drives me fucking nuts. I don't mind having to constantly open the app drawer on my Pixel. I only keep like the bare minimum apps on the front display. I want to see my wallpaper.
Oh yeah, I love enjoying my wallpaper.
You download Zedge, right? And you set it's so easy to just set any ringtone, any wallpaper. You know, I really do appreciate the level of control you get given with an Android.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of us stay with Android, and that's why I always went back to Android. You know, my first phone was like a well, I don't want to show my age too much, but we ain't had no smartphones. But I just want to say I came I came from a Windows Phone era too as well. So with Windows phones, they act as if it was a computer in your hand, and I love that sense. And then when I got a Android phone, it felt the same way. But then I got my first iPhone when the first iPhone came out, and I was just like, it didn't gravitate to me too much, man. And then like I think I had it for about 6 months, the first iPhone, and I sold it, and I went back to like a HTC HD2, and I fell in love with that phone. Was using it for a long time, and then I kind of went back to iPhone after they came out with the second one, then the 2GS, 3GS, and I just kept buying them. And it just never changed. It never changed. It kept being the same thing down the line. And man, what I hated the most is that everything I needed to do, I had to spend like a whole 5 hours organizing my iPhone with iTunes. Oh my goodness. Like uploading my music and making sure the album art is up there. Everything was just so much. And on Android, it was like connect your phone to the computer, drop and drag that folder, and then boom, it's on your media player. It was like, I don't know. It was like 10 minutes versus like 4 hours of me trying to organize my music albums inside iTunes. It was just a hot mess. And I never understood why anybody liked it. And then
iTunes
it matured
was
over
terrible.
time. It really was, man. It was a really
to this
horrible
day
experience.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
One thing I want to touch on as well that I wanted to touch on earlier. One thing that really tipped me with Apple was the stuff that's just come out about the privacy. With the tweet from Misk. That really fucking sent me, right? Because I really bought into the privacy thing, right? Privacy, that's iPhone. Whatever happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. We're not letting Meta and these apps track you, blah, blah, blah. And then it works out that the only people they cut out was the third parties, right? They cut all the third parties access to your data. All right, fine. But you as Apple, I'll never forget this reading on their website. They anonymize your data in native Apple applications, so it's not identifiable to you. The logs on the iPhone that Misk watched and drew up in real time as the iPhone was talking to Apple's servers, every piece of information, including your health data, your heart rate, any health metric collected by the iPhone and the Apple Watch, was all collected by Apple and easily identifiable to you because the iPhone made a point of making you identifiable in all of the logs. So what is the point of saying to Meta, you can't have our users' data, but we can? Why are you making quotes like privacy is a fundamental human right? Well, you're not fucking respecting my privacy. So is it? It's all lip service. They just proved themselves to be a huge hypocrite, hypocrite. And I just cannot stand that. And going back to what I said about the hubris and the ego that they're showing, you fucking lied. I don't trust you anymore. You know what? Does Google watch me and what I do? Yeah, they do. But did they tell me that they don't? No, they didn't. I know that they're fucking taking my data. But at the same time, right?
We just talked about this last week.
Google takes my data, but I get a return on it in the form of the voice dictation, the assistant. At least there's a fungible return I can see and feel. Apple is taking this data and giving me worse software. So fuck you, Tim. That's all I have to say on it. Just fuck you. So you're taking my data, you're violating my privacy, but you're making these speeches in your office. I don't know how many of you remember the video of him at his desk in a suit. Privacy is a human right, blah, 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 going to all these conferences, you know, and saying things like, I'll never forget as well, when the FBI asked them to break into someone's phone or tell them how to do it. And Apple was like, we're not doing that, blah, blah, blah. This is the table. This is what they did up here. This is all for public show. And underneath the table, they did everything the FBI told them to.
Yeah.
So don't tell me you're not cooperating with law enforcement. Don't tell me that you're anonymizing my data when you're not. And now you're serving up more adverts than ever, and they're all personalized. And what really pisses me off is the amount of times I got a notification saying, do you give us permission to track you or not? And even if you said no, it's still sent entirely identifiable data.
About this. We just talked about this in our last podcast too, man.
It's pointless. It's
literally
pointless. Don't tell me that privacy is an iPhone. Because if we bring up those tweets from Misk and you see the data logs, I read all of the threads. I studied his pictures. Like, it's fucked.
Privacy is no longer a feature.
It's a 180 opposite of what you're saying.
Yep.
That was a real deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
Don't ever treat me like an idiot.
Yeah, so I got an actual question for you guys. So do you think it's harder to switch from iPhone to Android or Android to iPhone, just generally speaking? I know you've been back and forth for at least 2 years that I've known you, Petar. What do you think is harder?
I think it used to be harder going from an iPhone to an Android. It's progressively got easier, because it's got easier to move things over. The only thing I would say is you as the user need to be aware that if you use Apple services like Photos, which you have to by default, and Apple are complete assholes for this, if you use any Android device, you can easily move that data over to Apple. But things that are on your iCloud email, on their iCloud photos, fuck you, you're never getting it.
Yeah.
You're never getting it. All you need to do is set your iPhone to not lock, leave it on some good Wi-Fi or some good LTE, and let it upload everything to Google Photos, and go into your, again, it shouldn't need this much hickory-dickory and fucking around in settings. You can upload all of that stuff to Google from your iPhone. And set yourself up, especially now in the UK where we all use WhatsApp and it has the migrate feature, so you can move all of your WhatsApp conversations over. At least outside of the UK, it's got a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, it's got a hell of a lot easier.
But I agree with him. It is a lot easier today, but for me, I never ever switched away from Android or iOS. So I'm still not even in that boat of picking between which one. I mean, at any given moment, I can put away all my Android stuff and use Apple ecosystem right now, or I could put away all my Apple stuff and just use Android's ecosystem right now. I never been in a situation where I had to be like, okay, I need to switch over to here because, like I said this before in a tweet, that a lot of people, when I screenshot my iPad or my Mac or even my iPhone, there's a lot of Google apps up there. And it seems like a lot of iPhone people really be hurt about me using, they're like, you might as well just get an Android phone. That's, they get mad because they see all these Google services on my iOS stuff.
Well, they're good. So what's the problem?
They're good, right? Yeah, one, they're good. And plus, I use Apple and Android. I use them, and Windows and Samsung or whatever. I don't care. I use them all.
But then at the same time, I want to know this. Find me, for many of the Google applications, is there an Apple equivalent? No, not for all of them.
I can't think of one.
You can't even compare Apple's calendar app and the Google Calendar app. My life since moving to a Pixel is so much more organized, and it's so much easier. Google's native apps and their whole mantra of the Pixel being a helpful assistant to your daily life is just reiterated over and over through their apps and just the little features and things like Play Now, or whatever it's called, like when it tells you what song's playing in the background. People love that. I went to a quiz at a bar, like a bar quiz the other week. There was a music round. I got fucking 10 out of 10. I cheated and no one knew.
Imagine having a bud in your ear, and then every time somebody asks a question, you just hit the button on your little phone or whatever and let that person talk, ask the question, and then the answer tells you.
Just tap and hold that pixel button, just let them talk.
No, you ain't even gotta do that. No, I just had a phone at the bottom ready and hit by the little icon.
The Google Assistant up.
Yeah, because a little jack right there at the bottom. So he asked the question, I just hit it. Then it just answers in my mind. Like, yeah, I got that.
I do think moving between the two in either direction is getting easier. I think, and one thing I will say as well, given that the amount of pressure Apple is under at the minute with the antitrust stuff, I really want those misc tweets to blow up, right? Because you're effectively monopolizing my data. You're banning, you're blocking third parties from accessing it, right? But even if I press do not track, you're still taking my data. So what's the point? You're also monopolizing that. So a lot of things that they're doing are just hella antitrust. Antitrust.
Yeah. And then look, if you're gonna deal with a company that's being like antitrust or whatever like that, right? Why not deal with the best company that's offering you the best services and the best experience and all that stuff like that? Anyways, in the first place. I mean, like I say, we all got to give up a little bit of privacy to have luxury. And I said this in our last stream, and this stands true to everybody, whether you're on Android, whether you're on iOS or whatever software that you're using, you're gonna give up some luxury. I mean, you're gonna give up some data, some privacy for that luxury to live the way that you live in. Like right now, like me having my Google Homes all over my house, people are like, well, Google listening to you. Well, all they doing is listening to me have with my wife and me playing video games and eating and chewing. So
well, there's the option to cut the mic off. You can physically disable the mic.
I know that, but what I'm saying is that I don't care. For the convenience of that, I can sit here and talk to Google and tell it to do whatever I need to do, ask it questions or whatever the case may be. That's the convenience I'm given. So but people mindset like, yeah, they're listening to you. If you get a HomePod, Apple's not collecting your data, but it just shows that they are. They're no different than anybody else.
Well,
right
Apple
now.
got caught out for it. They got caught out because all of the Siri recordings were going to a third-party company in Ireland, and people were listening. And they found out that they heard people arguing, all sorts of stuff. Again, something they said, they were like, oh, no one listens to your recordings when you use Siri. Well, that's fucking bullshit. That's clearly bullshit. And I want to touch on quickly, there's a comment from Mura Tech Talk, right? In the US, eSIM-only iPhones would make it more difficult to switch they did that on purpose. And they did, I think they deliberately did that in America only. They could have easily said, we're just going to do that globally.
Apple controls the United States when that comes to iPhones. They control they are putting that
choke death grip on fucking the US. They will not let that market go.
Nope.
Yeah, that's the most important one because there's so many different cultures that try to be westernized like the US is, especially in terms of popular culture, like what device you're carrying.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep. But things like that just bug me because why would you have two different production lines?
It's so dumb.
It's a conscious choice. It's a conscious choice that they made.
I mean, at least I guess we can give them credit for not changing a whole processor like Samsung did, but still, a hardware change is a hardware change.
I mean, people say the point of not using the A16 and the 14, the non-pros, was keeping the price down, right? But I don't see how they kept the price down because the 14 Plus comes in at $950. Where the fuck is the $200 difference?
Yeah.
What did you save? You're having my pants down and you're bending me over and coming in dry with that fucking price. There's no easy way to put it.
Yeah, I did want to talk up on this though. Trench, you're absolutely 100% right because I use Mac and Windows and they're very similar. I can do more on Windows for obvious reasons, but as far as functionality, they're pretty much the same and you can do everything. But when it comes to iOS and Android, it's they're not gonna let you move over. They're not gonna let you do anything. I agree with that. It's a nightmare, bro. It is a real nightmare when it comes to that.
In America, they are. In America.
Yeah. And Apple is pushing towards 60%. Yes, like you said, in America. That's true.
They're trying to
dominate Samsung. They're trying
to increase. It's got a really good grip on the 18 to 25 demographic in America.
If anybody's dropping, I see Samsung. I don't think Apple's dropping.
Oh, Samsung's going to be the one to drop off, and it will Pixel to chew them up because if you look at Samsung's market share consecutively for the last 5 years across multiple Western markets, the best they have done is hold steady. They haven't gained, they've held, but in the majority of markets, they've declined. And there was a really good video from Tech Alter, the German guy. One of the reasons, and he explained it quite well, was one of the reasons you're seeing improved voice dictation and call screening on Samsung devices is because, and the reason Google is making such a big push with their hardware, they're aware that Samsung can't hold the premium Android mantle. And they said, you can't do it, so we're going to do it, but we're going to help you. So here are some hand-me-downs. It's getting to a point where Google is in the background propping them up. But at some point, Google's going to have to say, like, you know, like in F1, one racer overtakes the other. At some point, Samsung are going to have to make way because clearly, even though Samsung's predominant mobile business is selling A and M series devices, people also forget this as well. The majority of their mobile sales, like a good 80-90%, are in the A series range.
Yeah.
Okay. And Google can beat them on the A series with their A series
easily,
and in the premium market.
They can,
especially with the prices right now. Yeah,
it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while for Google to get to that point, but Google can do it. Like I said, if anybody can do it, it's going to be Google, and they have to keep up with this momentum that they're doing now. They got to keep on marketing. They got to have some good trade-in deals. They got to make good, solid software. Well, the product seems to be good at this point. They just got to keep up with it, keep refining the experience and making it good. But marketing is so important, and I didn't realize it until like. Literally, they start marketing the 6 because still to this day, like I said in all my videos and on Twitter and everything else, people literally come up to me and be like, "Oh, that's that Google phone that does that magic eraser thing, right?" And I'm like,
people love that.
Yes, but they don't know the name of the phone. But the fact is that they're very aware of
associating things with it.
Yes, I could say 2 years ago, before the Pixel 6, nobody ever asked me about a Pixel phone or a feature, let alone on a Pixel phone. It was Samsung and just Apple.
The marketing is working, and I have to admit,
yeah,
I wish I had like a camera on my head, right? So I could come home and like see how many times in a day I see Google marketing all over the South UK. Because I travel the whole South UK for work. It's on like every bus stop. It's on like every second billboard. There's TV adverts like during prime time slots. When the majority of the country is watching TV, they've got celebrities using it. They're making a really big push, and it's working. And I hope they keep it up.
Trench nailed it right here. Trench nailed it right here. I said it in my last video.
What Trent said, 100%.
Yes. I said it. I said if Google
we need to keep eating the loss.
$8.99. Yes. Yep. This $8.99 for this right here compared to the competition, bro. Like literally, yeah, literally. But look, think about this.
$849. Finally, something that does as well for $849.
In my Pixel 6 Pro or a Pixel 7 Pro video that I just recently made, I talked about this being $8.99 and this being $8.99, and somehow they upgraded everything in this phone and kept the price exactly the same.
That's insane, bro. That's insane when you think about it like that. Yeah,
£480.
Absolutely. New hardware in the new phones. But yet the price did not go up.
It might still have its gripes, but the majority of it was sorted out with Android 13. And I want to point this out as well. £80 brand new, but 65 on Amazon. And they're great. They're great. They're solid, you know.
They do what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
It's a very accessible ecosystem.
It is.
So long as they keep it like that, and I think they should and they will. The only thing that matters, I think, for them to keep it up, they need to see year-on-year growth in their market share.
Yeah, I agree.
But they can easily chew up the loss or the smaller margin.
The growth will come if they can get these units in people's hands and using their services. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Plus everybody's already using their services. Yeah, and they will, and I feel like they can if they continue to do this, because without increasing the prices right now, they can keep slapping each. I mean, like even right now, YouTubers are blowing up. The best deal is Pixels. Like
$2.99 for a 6A. Like I said,
you can't. Yeah, you can't recommend something over that. You can't.
Do you know what would be great? And one thing I see in the UK, and I think you see it all the time in America. Tell me if you do or you don't. The pop-up Samsung stores, this pop-up Samsung experiences. do a pop-up Google experience and show people Magic Eraser.
Yeah.
Because that person who walks by, they're going to stop and take a look. Put the Pixel Watch out, put the Pixel Buds out, put the whole thing on display and show them the Magic Eraser, show them the voice dictation. And you're planting the seed so that 6 months from that day, when their carrier calls them up and says, you're due an upgrade, shit, oh, I saw that Google Pixel. Do you guys still have that? You know, like, oh, my mother's due an upgrade. My child is due an upgrade. And when you put these stands up, put a little area up for Family Link. Showcase
the sad thing is we don't see. Yeah, the sad thing is we don't see anything like that in the United States. And if there was a place where we would do it, it would be in carrier stores. In carrier stores, all they're trying to do is sell you a phone.
That's a good place to do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but
in the US,
because it's other phone manufacturers in the same store, and they lose contract, and it's all sales based. So it's just so many factors that that play in it. So that's why we can't do that type of thing here, unfortunately.
Google's never going to compete on that because they can't be taking a loss on the hardware and paying big bucks to. You can't play it both ways. And if I had to choose between the two, I'll take the marketing and the undercutting on the price every time.
100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And because that translates into lower monthly payments on the contracts, which naturally get people interested anyway.
And it's he said they wanted to see. It's crazy. I've seen a video where somebody said they feel like the new Pixel 7 Pro, the Pros are the Ultras anyways, because it actually competes with the best of Samsung and the best of Apple. If you look at it, and then the 7 and the 6 series compete with their regular Pros. If you kind of think about it, that's what the person said in the video. And I kind of agree with some of the points that he did make. But I do think that the 7 or 6 could step up a little bit more. But if Google did make a Ultra, and they pack Ultra stuff in there, then it will probably be better than the Max and the Ultra that Samsung had.
Well, but this is already better. This is already better.
That's the point I'm saying. That's the point I'm trying to get at. Is like it's already competing. This Pro is already competing with their best. So if they made an Ultra, it will be in its own lane, kind of like the Note line was. And kind of like the Fold is compared to it.
But then, how do you make this Ultra? That's
what
question.
I have no clue.
How do you take this up further?
I guess put a new camera sensor in. I don't know.
That's not enough. But that's not enough. That's not enough.
I think the only next natural evolution step is the Fold. That is the only
thing. Yeah,
I agree.
That's the only natural evolution point for it. And for tech in general.
Yeah, and then because I mean, they can always take next year, right? The Pixel 8 and just throw an extra camera here and still call it a Pro.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Because adding a camera would not make it an Ultra, and I can't think of anything else they can do to this phone to make it change the title of it and adding more stuff to it. I mean, without taking away from the Pros, you get what I'm saying? Like they would have to take away from this. Like kind of like what Samsung did, because y'all remember at once upon a time, the Plus model was Samsung's best model. Then they started taking away features and slapping those into like the Ultras or the Note or the Ultras now, I guess, same different thing, and making you kind of go from that to that. And now the Plus models are kind of like, So
which I've always thought was a piss take. Because effectively, what Samsung has said at that point is, if you want the real, true flagship experience with us, it starts at $1,200.
Yes, this is it right here. This is it.
Yeah,
and I think they will. I think they will because, even with everything going on right now, they still chose to price the 7 Pro at $849. So I guarantee you that price we saw, that rumored price of $1,799, is probably bullshit. Google are not fucking stupid. They've made that clear. They seem to be pretty good at reading the room.
Yeah.
That's one thing they seem to be doing pretty well, reading the room quite nicely. So I can guarantee you that Pixel Fold is going to come in at like 1,499, 1,399. And that's pre-discount, pre-incentives, pre-trade-in and stuff like that, because they'll give heavy incentives for people to take it up and give it a try.
Yeah.
And even if you don't, even at full price, it will be a good buy.
Yeah, I think that the Fold might, just call me crazy, because the way they pricing the 8 I mean, well, the 7 and the 7 Pro and the 6 and the 6 Pro and all that, whatever. I think that Google might be trying to price this thing somewhere like, I don't know, $11.99 or even $10.99 or somewhere not over $1,300. And I'm just saying that based off the pricing that they have. If they did that, they will be undercutting a Pro Max on Apple as well as the Ultra at their price tag of paying like up the storage and all the stuff like that. Where if you go up on the storage, you're paying about $1,400. I think the Pro Max, if you max it out, is it $1,700? Am I correct?
Yeah, about $1,700. Yeah,
about $1,700. If they can price a Fold under that, they will do a really great job in that market. And
the fact
I think
that
a lot
they
of people
continue
will
to
buy
undercut is healthy for the market.
Yep.
Especially if you're Samsung, right, on the foldables.
And
it forces you to reevaluate your position in terms of features and pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that Google has done, from enforcing update standards to software standards, everything Google has done has been to the benefit of Android on software, pricing, everything.
Yeah, it has.
Yep.
And I'm excited about it because I'm hoping that one day that if it's working for Google, that Samsung and Apple will be forced to actually drop their prices, which we know.
Point of it,
yeah, that's the whole point, right? But we know that Apple may not.
I think Apple will.
You think Apple will? See, they're the ones I think that will not.
1250. I don't think their current pricing model is sustainable. I mean, even on monthly, their prices on carriers here are absurd.
But people, especially in the U.S. and westernized markets, people are buying it regardless every year.
Not when this recession hits.
Carrier deals. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And they're saying it's going to be the longest one yet. I mean, if we go into a 3-4 year recession, and some economists are even saying depression, things like all that luxury premium stuff. I mean, from January, you know, and for example, energy prices in the UK have increased 300%. If you have to choose between heating your home and an iPhone, people are going to heat their home. You know, but seriously, Apple are pricing themselves out. They're so worried about maintaining their margin and their profitability and their shareholders. Somebody at Apple needs to have the balls to turn around and say, we need to just fucking suck up losing, I don't know, hypothetically speaking, 10% of our margin. They're notorious for their 40% margin. Fuck your 40% margin. Take it down to 30, 25%. But keep yourself in the game. Keep yourself affordable.
Yep.
I don't even think they'll lose that. I don't even think they'll lose that margin because Apple already overcharged for what their phones are worth. They overcharge. There's the price to make it. There's the cost to make profit, and then there's Apple's extra profit costs that they throw into these phones. So if they remove that and then stick with just the profit, then they could drop the prices, and I still think they'll come out on top regardless because everything with Apple, everything, and I mean everything with Apple is a fucking markup. Everything. It's beyond, you know, saying what I mean. Everything from
those new iPad prices are fucking ridiculous, man.
Bro,
starting at $12.50 is just fucking. Honestly, it's ridiculous. Like £90 a month on.
Yes.
Who the fuck is paying £90 a month for an iPad?
Bro, that is ridiculous. They took an old iPad and gave it a $100 increase. That if you bought it a year or two ago, you would have had a better deal, and now it went up. Like that's just insanely crazy.
The 2018 and 20 iPads are still the best iPads to buy.
It is. It's crazy because even Marquez used a 2018 iPad, and that's exactly what I got right now. And I don't feel compelled to upgrade at all whatsoever, besides me going back to the 11-inch. But yeah,
right, gentlemen, I am gonna have to love you and leave you because it is 2:30 in the morning here.
Yeah, it's the perfect time to wrap up for sure, bro. For sure. Yeah, we appreciate you for joining us. We appreciate.
No, thanks for having me, man. Been a ton of fun.
I always have a ton of fun talking to you, just hearing what you have to say. It's always super fun. And we appreciate all the people who have stopped by the stream. If you haven't already, feel free to like it. If you're rewatching this, like it. Just we could push out more content like this. We'll definitely have a time on again. Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah. So yeah, again, appreciate you guys. Talk to you guys later.
See you later, guys.
Peace out.
Thanks for stopping by, everyone.